All right, well, welcome to the Cinebums. This is our podcast about canceling your plans and just watching movies. This past month, I even called off work for a week, and I just watched movies. Happened to have a fever, but really, if there was movies weren't there, I probably would have gone to work with the fever. But the movies helped. I just watched a bunch of shit, and it was the first time I'd done that in a while too. You don't get that chance as much in life when you get older.
Yeah, I personally have been praying to get COVID so I could finish the rehearsal and watch Godzilla -1. So I feel that.
Yeah, yeah, I did watch the rehearsal when I was sick, and I will say it's great with a fever. Maybe even makes it better. Also, Dune Part 1 is better with a fever. There's a lot of movies like that.
Yeah, a good dreary sci-fi sand movie is good.
Yeah, because it's hot on Dune, or I don't even know if it's hot. It might be, but however,
they wear a lot of clothes, so it might not be. But yeah,
that's true.
They are still in a.
It's like 4D or something.
Is the planet called Dune? You just call it Dune.
I don't think it's called
Dune
for Dune purists, but I feel like I don't know. Isn't Dune? Isn't Dune
called Dune?
Arrakis or something like that.
I think Dune is referring.
Oh, that sounds right.
Arrakis
I think that's
sounds
maybe
right.
their home planet, maybe, but I think Dune is referring to the idea of that they're on now this desert planet, and he has to learn from the people.
They're doomed from the situation.
There's a lot of dunes there with the worms going through. I don't know.
Those the actual sand dunes. Yeah, that makes sense.
I don't know.
Should have called it worms. I think worms would have been a better
giant worms and
they should have called it worms. You should call it worm.
That's a good a bummy joke.
But
that's
actually,
right.
I'd like to write a full monologue, like John did.
Yeah, I've already written some jokes.
I was thinking about that too.
Jokes for the bummies. Yeah,
get
I have too. I thought of
joke koi on.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
Yeah, but maybe we could just sidebar edit. Whoever edits the bummies adds laugh casts and about reactions,
crowd
like
reaction
a sitcom,
shots.
like a sitcom.
Groans if there's something bad too.
We can cut to Jennifer Lawrence and Bradley Cooper reacting to the jokes at the Oscars when they cut away.
Yes, that's good. That's good. Yeah.
See.
Or in the reel of the joke or something. Yeah, we add.
Man,
true. Yeah,
celebs.
The ideas just come out when we start recording.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know anyone who knows the actual. If you know the mythology of Dune and the specifics,
I'm sure most people do. I think
you're just
none of us are the key demographic.
You're a fucking nerd, basically.
You read the book.
Yeah.
It is a cool name. I do think Dune is a cool name. It sounds like something. Yeah. It's like, oh, Dune sounds sick. Like
there's
sounds
more
like a cool
awesome.
Like Blade Runner,
Blade Runner is maybe the coolest name for a sci-fi movie.
What does that even mean? But it sounds so cool. Yeah, Blade Runner. Like, how does Philip K. Dick? Or I guess he didn't even come up with that, did he? No, he did. The book just had the title.
Yeah, I think it was Ridley Scott might have come up with it.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Android's Dream of Electric Sheep is the book, I think, right?
Right. Yeah. Cool.
I don't know sci-fi well. We don't really don't.
Yeah, Dune on its own is it's I don't know. Without the mythology, it's just like a cool thing. Yeah, without knowing anything about it, on who all these people are and the quest for energy on these various planets and the politics of it.
Yeah, every day I'm on a quest for energy. So I relate.
So it's a timeless retelling, yeah.
We're going to talk about other movies that are not on our top 10s, just to start.
The outside looking in, yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. Outside.
So whoever wants to go and ring that in first, I don't know. Hey, first, before that, I don't know, like Jake, in terms of this past year of movies,
Mm.
um, like I don't know, like do you think it was like a great year for movies or a good year for movies or an okay year for movies? You know, how does it compare to other years? You know,
Mm.
that sort of thing.
Kind of break down the year a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, I think personally it's the best post-pandemic year for movies that we've had, like probably since 2019. Um, it was a year that made me really happy because it was a lot of our favorite movies I think we're going to be talking about are like made by auteurs or really passionate and up and coming like new writer directors that we really like, movie star driven stuff. Like not a lot of like four quadrant blockbusters, which personally I think that's great that a lot of those bombed the Marvels and the
Yeah.
DCs.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
No, for sure. That's
and I
true.
think that's a
Yeah.
Yeah.
really defining kind of what audiences want out of going to the movies now. Even on streaming services like Killers of the Flower Moon, like the possibly the greatest director on the planet had a movie go to Apple TV and like a lot of people watched it. Um, yeah, I think it's really exciting. Like a lot of my favorite directors made a movie this year that was really, really damn good.
Hmm.
So like
Yeah.
how do you guys feel about it?
I agree. And there's also a lot like I thought like blockbusters I liked as well. Like the what outside of the Marvels, there were like movies that were sequels or blockbusters, and they, you know, you'd think of them as like very generic, but I thought they were also good.
Yeah.
Um, I also there were some good foreign films this year that I saw, of course, like last, you know, after I
Yeah.
watched all the American shit.
America
Yeah,
first on this podcast.
yeah,
That's right. Yeah.
it's our colors.
That's what we're all about. Yeah.
You could
Yeah.
do
I
like
feel like,
Cinebums with Japanese colors too, or like French colors, and to
yeah.
diversify us. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's get more cultured. Um, yeah. I thought this year had like higher highs than the past few years. I still think I need to see a few more, notably like foreign movies. Uh, yeah, before I really like feel I don't think I could even name a 2022 movie right now. Um,
Mm. I
yeah, I'm
kind of
sure.
can because there's like a lot that's on Amazon Prime that you guys talked about last year,
Okay,
and
maybe,
There
yeah.
were
that I
a
might
lot.
try to watch after you know, we're done with this. Like for instance, like After Yang is on Amazon Prime. And I
Hmm?
remember John talking about how much he liked it, and Jake, you did too. And there's a
Wow.
lot. There, yeah,
Yeah.
Good
I didn't
Well,
memory.
think.
there.
I would have never pulled that movie, but that was
But
such a
you
good
was
Yeah.
your
movie last
guys like
year.
top 15, I think, or
Yeah, it
something
was
like
like
that.
yeah, my number.
So
Yeah.
I think of 2022. I think of like Top Gun Maverick and RRR mainly from the
Oh,
mind
yeah,
first.
yes.
I,
Yes.
I
Yeah.
think of only Top Gun Maverick,
Yeah, like
but
that's the
like
Mhm.
defining movie of that year. Like
um,
no question, for sure.
what's interesting is like, you know, I think back to 2022 and Quentin Tarantino says that thing where it's like, no, I'm thinking about 2019. Sorry, but he says this
But
was
what you're
when.
saying is prevalent to this year, I think.
Yes, it is, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying where the quote came from,
Hmm.
where he's like, studios or original filmmakers with original content took a last stand against, you know, big budget superhero movies or just franchises and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And I kind of now, in ways, look at that every year as in like, okay, how did that war, that ongoing battle that's in the industry go down? I think that's one of the things I find interesting. And in terms of like, you know, obviously, with if only Barbenheimer happened this year, we would like, you know, to say that they won the war based off of that, because those movies ruled the box office. And as you said, superhero movies sucked this year.
Yeah. And it's like Barbie is technically an IP movie, but it's like wholly original in the way it's told. And that movie like demolished Mission Impossible, which is a huge IP movie. Like the movie
Yeah,
lost a
yeah,
lot of movie. And I love that movie, but it's kind of crazy how, like I think audience expectations have shifted like a lot. Like they don't
yeah.
care about Tom Cruise,
Yeah.
the movie star, even though he just had the most
Oh
highest
yeah,
grossing movie of
he
the last
owned
year who
the
saved
last year.
cinema.
Yeah,
Yeah, but people, Barbie's a high concept movie that was talked about a lot. So
Yeah.
it's really fascinating.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the whole Barbenheimer like month that we had. I thought that was fun, and going to the theater and seeing like people really get into it. Yeah, it
Yeah.
was like it felt like olden times. But it's good. But yeah, that's why I think there are like higher highs in this year than
The
other
previous
years.
year.
Yeah, even if like the quality was still great in 2022 and 2021, but yeah, the highs were just really high this year, and just a lot of big directors with movies this year.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah. No, it was cool. Like I
heavy
think
hitters.
that as the lists go through, we'll like um I even as I look at my list, I'm like, dang, like there's so much variation and variety. Like it's so much variety among all the movies that I picked, uh, and they're all pretty good in their own unique way. That being said, also I watched a lot of trash this year. So just to say, if we do worst movies of the year, I watched a lot of bad ones because I noticed that especially when you're trying to cram some movies towards the end of the year, they really put out a lot of the shitty ones for free on streaming like right away, and a lot of the good
Yeah.
ones you have to rent or find. Like it always seems that way, at least for me.
Yeah, I looked at your list and I saw like movies that Netflix tried to crater into their system and just stuff that no one else has watched that I know. And like I couldn't even think of the titles, but it was just kind of just
Yeah,
yeah, like late season Oscar dumpage. And it's
yeah.
just funny to see.
The bottom is very large of my
Yeah.
list. It's kind of like
It's really bottom
I
heavy,
don't know, a
yeah.
communist country or something like my list. Everyone's just at the bottom in my
Yeah.
list.
Trying to get to the poor thing spot, but they can't.
Yeah. Oppenheimer is the dictator, which actually sounds like a dictator, you know?
It does, yeah.
All right, but let's do those honorable
Let's
mentions. Yeah,
let's
I've
do
got a
it.
Yeah,
few. Who wants to start it off?
Go
I'll
ahead.
start. All right, well, okay. I'll go through this fast. I just had a few in mind and I forgot. Okay, first thing, I know you guys for sure both watched The Curse. So yeah, that's not a
Yes.
movie, obviously, but I'll throw out a series, a comedy special, and a movie honorable mention. So yeah, The Curse, great different series. Really glad that people like Nathan Fielder and Benny Safdie are like teaming up to do something like that. And it's one of those that I watched all the Q&As and
There's a lot. Yeah,
and
like
things
Nolan.
afterwards.
Nolan interviewed them
Yeah,
too, which
actually, I
I
haven't
want
seen
to
that one
watch.
yet.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
really want to watch that. I haven't seen any, but like it's hard to start with how many there are.
yeah, right. Yeah,
Film at Lincoln Center, all that stuff.
yeah. So that was great. A comedy special from this year is Joe Pera, Slow and Steady. Um,
Oh.
yeah, I think it's all on YouTube.
Hmm.
And yeah, Joe Pera. I don't know if did you guys watch his Adult Swim show at all? Joe Pera talks with
I've
you.
seen clips of it, yeah.
That was like a pandemic like comfort show for me and a lot of people. And he just has this like wholesome old man style of like comedy. Like
Hmm.
it's just very like comforting. And he even there's like so much crowd work nowadays with comedy on social media and everything, but he had a couple crowd work moments that were just so funny and just like totally his style. And he just has such a unique character that he plays. It's different than just some guy up there standing with a mic complaining about life and cancel culture and stuff. So yeah, Joe Pera, Slow and Steady, great comedy special. And then a movie, you know what? I'm gonna say honorable mention is the new Scream. I liked the new Scream movie. I liked the New York setting. Um, I know I was kind of like indifferent after the previous one, but in this one, I think I got to like the characters a little bit more. And I thought there was some just great specific scenes, specifically with like the ladder going across the two
Yeah, yeah.
apartments, and yeah, I thought it was just another fun slasher that all the the Scream movies usually are. So yeah, I liked it, and I
Yeah.
thought it was stupid that they fired the one main girl for saying stuff about Palestine.
Yeah. Unreal.
One, because it's like she's not, saying anything like terrible or wrong, and two, it's like, does anybody remember like everyone's opinion about like a war going on? Like I don't.
Yeah.
If they didn't say anything about it, I probably would have never known about it. Not that it would have affected my enjoyment of the
Scream.
movie anymore, but yeah, yeah, exactly. So I
Yeah.
thought that was stupid,
Yeah.
but otherwise, I did enjoy the movie. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I enjoyed it. Those movies are pretty on point. That one was pretty on point. Uh I don't think I needed it, but like I think like what they're doing is
yeah,
all pretty like yeah, solid. Like everyone's good in it. They're fun. They go full on with the violence that in a
yeah,
whole nother way, and the New York thing is cool for sure. Uh
yeah. The subway scenes I really like too.
That was great.
But those are super tense. But
yeah,
yeah,
I
it
mean
is a little like Star Warsy with like who's related to who and everybody. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
They
they're
took
kind of
a
making it
it's kind of
that.
funny.
they took a
Yeah,
page out of the Force Awakens playbook. Yeah.
yeah, right. Yeah,
And like
uh,
Force Awakens, they're just very watchable. Kind of they distract you for 2 hours and you kind of forget
Mhm.
about them a day later type of movies anyway. So
yeah,
yeah,
right.
the new
Yeah,
one was I thought was really solid too.
yeah. I think that's all my honorable mentions.
Good stuff.
All right. I'll go. I've got a few honorable mentions. Where do I start? I think my first honorable mention is Bradley Cooper's Maestro. Um, I think like this movie's like so mixed, but and if I saw like five less movies or in the top 10, I probably would have put it in there or something like that. But I believe Maestro deserves like recognition despite its uh, how criticized it is and despite its like flaws, because I think it's just like a really such an ambitious work of film, and like Bradley Cooper is like killing himself for it, and I think that you'll see a lot of I would like when you're watching it, it's crazy because I'm like, this is an Oscar nominated performance. And then in terms of like, I don't know, in terms of how the film looks and how it's directed, it almost feels to me like I'm watching a Spielberg movie.
Hmm.
And but maybe more one of the like boring ones that I'm not as into, like The Post or some shit.
It's like Amistad or something. Yeah, it's like historical
Yeah,
kind of
it's so
melodramatic.
like
Yeah.
it's so like for his directing, it is so Spielberg influenced to me, and then he's just going all out with this performance. Um, but yeah, I definitely did not watch this. Yeah, I definitely didn't watch this movie where I was like, I wasn't not in it the whole time. There were a lot of points where I fell out of it for sure. Uh, and also like Jake, you mentioned the other day we were talking in the car, and like you said, yeah, there should be more like music, in Maestro, and there should be more of him actually like, being a genius rather than just character. It over characterizes this relationship and stuff like that. But there's just something about this like autobiographical nature of Cooper making this movie, and what a big like another big step for him as a filmmaker it is. And then the idea that it's also produced by Martin Scorsese and Spielberg, and that they were like gave him the reins. Like there's just something so cool about everything maybe behind this movie to me rather than as much the film itself. Yeah, one of the most, I think it's just like, I'll bring it up as an honorable mention just because it's one of the most interesting movies to come out the whole year, I would say.
There's a great story of Spielberg being on the set of Star is Born and he saw Bradley direct the shallow sequence and he went up to him after that and he's like, "You're fucking directing the Maestro movie." It's like you're
Yeah,
perfect for it.
yeah,
And I feel like
yeah,
that might have been I also like the movie, but I feel like it might have been a false confidence sort of situation that propelled him to kind of go up his own ass in some ways.
Yeah,
But
I mean, you watch this film and he's clearly wearing too many hats, Bradley Cooper,
yeah,
and you know, clearly you're like, oh, Cooper's definitely a fucked up guy because he's going so all in on this. But I like that stuff. I like that.
mhm.
I think that's really
It's
cool.
exciting.
And
Yeah.
Bradley Cooper is like, I like him. I'm a huge fan, and I think I like people who go for it. So that's partly why Maestro is one on honorable mentions. Another one is actually Creed 3.
Oh,
Um,
nice. Good pick.
yeah, the last Jonathan Majors, who is currently in a bunch of trouble. It's a shame. It's a shame because I thought Jonathan Majors is fantastic in Creed 3, and
Amazing. Yeah.
I like Creed 3 a lot. It's funny how like you remove Stallone from the Creed franchise and you put Michael B. Jordan in the director chair. You think, okay, this what can this really be? Like there's got to be some like, I don't know, cash grab or self indulgent or something. But I was in on Creed Three's story from the get go, and yeah, just thought it was so good. It was so much better than I expected.
The fighting
Um,
sequences were nuts. Like how
yeah,
cinematic and kind of cartoonish they were. It's like a really bold
yeah,
directing choice
yeah,
from Michael B.
yeah. So really effective movie. Okay, and then one more. This movie, bare just didn't make the top 10. It's right on the border. Um, it's thank God. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
It is a wordy title. Yeah.
Based off the Judy Blume novel. This movie's so damn good and could have made the top 10 if I just didn't like a few others more. And yeah, it's just the type of movies we always need to come out every year. Wholesome, indie, funny, charming, with with movie stars in it, and stuff that like, and yeah, it's like a timeless story. And I've read this book because Jake, you loaned it to me, and uh, like the movie makes the book like turns the book really into a movie
Mhm.
in like the best way, when the book is mainly just letters of a girl like questioning things like her religion, who she is, like going through puberty as a girl and all this stuff. It's just the movie really takes that and explores everything on the screen and in a charming way that's meant for a movie. So yeah, that one's very great. I highly recommend it as well to those who haven't seen it.
Me too.
But yeah, those are my honorable mentions.
Cool.
Yeah. Great picks. Um, I'll do what John did. I have a few shows I just want to talk about really briefly, but probably my favorite piece of content that just came out this year was Beef on Netflix,
Oh
which
yeah,
was
yeah,
absolutely brilliant in my opinion. Just like pitch perfect, completely realized characters and screenwriting and storytelling, and just
yeah,
has so much to say about current like social dynamics and like economic sort of gaps between two people that are seemingly so different, but in the end they kind of come together in a really profound
yeah,
and fucked up way.
yeah,
It's just such a
yeah,
brilliant show.
yeah,
It's one season. I highly recommend it. Stephen Young and Ali Wong are both just incredible. Also goes without saying, but the Bear season 2 was just brilliant in my opinion. Also,
yeah,
just improved the first season on every conceivable level. It has so much heart. It has so much humanity injected into a show about a beef sandwich restaurant that you would never expect it to have. I've rewatched season 2 time and time again. It's become like an inspiring piece of television for me. And the episode where
Well,
Richie works at that restaurant is like probably like up there with
yeah. I'd
like
love to rewatch that episode.
yeah,
Yeah,
like up there with Succession as like the best episode of television I saw this year. So yeah, those are
yeah,
the shows. And then real quick with a movie, um, I just want to talk about Bottoms real quick. I think we don't get a lot of
mm,
comedies nowadays. I actually showed this movie to Luke a few months back, and just an incredible homage to like 90s like slapsticky ridiculous comedies that we don't get at all anymore. And it had like so many up and coming like gals that are just hilarious, and
Yeah.
they clearly wrote a lot of the jokes on set. It's just such a great collaborative, infectiously funny movie that Marshawn Lynch is like brilliant in it. It's like
Yeah.
insane
Yeah.
how fucking funny he was in it. And I could see myself watching this movie a whole lot in the next coming years. And lastly, kind of on a downer note, but a movie that was like really blew my socks off was How to Blow Up a Pipeline, which came out
Yeah.
like
That was
towards the
partly
big.
going to be on my honorable mentions as well.
Yeah, I saw you watched it. That movie is just exhilarating on
Yeah.
every level and got like
Yeah.
really extremist like piece of filmmaking that's like insane
Yeah.
how that it exists
Yeah.
in the world.
Yeah.
And like just like Ocean's 11 kind of like dialed up to a very like important cause and a very
Mhm.
emotion comes from like a really emotional place from everyone involved, you can tell. And just the storytelling and the filmmaking is just incredibly impressive for a lot of amateurish people, I guess. And yeah, I think a good time capsule for 2023. And just in, just in terms of where we're at and everything. So yeah,
Yeah.
I just wanted to shout out those, and yeah, those are my honorables.
Yeah. That movie
Cool.
ends in like where it says this was in, it's not really a spoiler, but they say like this was in self-defense. It's
Hmm.
like a wildly radical movie.
Yeah,
Um,
just straight up leftist propaganda made into a movie, and Hollywood's obviously really left leaning, so it makes sense why this movie was made. But
but
it's
even much
great.
more, this is goes
It's
much more than
it
that.
goes so
Yeah.
much deeper than you'd expect, and all the characters are so rich too. Yeah, I
Hmm.
just highly recommend it to everyone if
It's
you're.
interesting. Both times I went to the Denver Film Festival for Cinebums. That director
Oh,
was it
really?
Goldhaber, Daniel Goldhaber.
Yeah,
He was there, and in each time, well, I didn't know who he was the first time. He was there for Cam.
Cam. Yeah,
Uh,
Cam's great.
yeah, and that time, I remember like not knowing he was a filmmaker, and I did kind of like I was just like walking around the red carpet area, not having any idea what to do. Luke, I think you were at the other theater at this point, and I did the whole oh thing past him, and then I end up like watching the red carpet thing, and I was like, oh my god, that's the guy that uh,
That's crazy.
I did a thing. Yeah, but then I saw him the next time, and I was like, oh, it's cool that that guy's still. I really liked
Still
Cam, so it's
working.
cool that he
Did
was.
you
Yeah,
guys
he's doing stuff.
do that?
No,
Oh,
I should have. I was like, do you remember me? I'm the guy that we like. Like, oh yeah,
We did the
you seem
crowd
like a really cool
dance.
guy. Yeah,
What you working on?
yeah. It's like,
I'm
oh,
still
you
doing
know,
I'm still doing podcasts. I did a closet
same old
episode.
stuff,
Did a
you
closet
know.
episode too.
Yeah, I'd love to do another one and pick your movie out of the closet. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, wouldn't it?
I'll pick your movie out of the closet.
get him on the podcast.
Yeah, right. Yeah, and yeah, we got that connection now, so that'd be a big get.
But yeah, then the shows like it's crazy how Beef, is maybe the best show of the previous year with all that came out. Like with
Yeah,
Succession and
Succession's final
The
season. Yeah,
Bear and Barry for me was a big
Barry, I
one.
forgot that.
that was a
Yeah.
great. Yeah,
Yeah,
that was up there too.
I might be missing some, but like, yeah, but still, after all that, like, because Beef was so early on, I think it was like one of the first things I watched in the new year, actually. And
It came out
um,
like in February or something of last year. It was so quick.
yeah, and I think it still reigns as the best one for me. Like, it was so good.
Yeah.
It's a big year for shows about beef.
Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Thank you.
All right.
All right.
You
Well,
guys start us off, John.
Top tens.
oh, sure. Oh, I didn't know what I was getting myself into by volunteering to go first. All right. Well, yeah, my top 10. This might have been one of the first, this is for sure one of the first movies, if not the first ones I saw this year, and it's John Wick 4. Yeah, I was struggling to figure out what to put in the 10 spot. I think like that 9 and 10 spot was hard I could have said all those for honorable mentions too, um, but yeah, I think I just went with John Wick because I think it adds to, like Luke was saying, the variety of the list. I think this adds to the variety of my list a little bit. This is
There's
sort of
probably
just
no
a
other movie
fun,
like it on the list. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
There's no
It's
way
like
there is.
a
Yeah.
it's like a video game movie,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah.
You kind of it's its own world. Everybody knows it at this point that they can really do whatever they want. And I just thought there was really some great action set pieces in this, great settings. These always just look so good. They're just like a visual
Yeah.
feast.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, it's really just the choreography of all the stunts and the action is just uh, it's just so hard to not be entertained by it. So uh, yeah, I think each one I'm like amazed when I see them in the theater, and I never know which one is my favorite or anything. But
Right.
um, yeah, but I thought this one was just as great as they all have been, and yeah, and even I'll forget like any if you try to think of like like how this fits into like the real world, it just doesn't, and you have to let go of that, like how they could be in this heavily populated area in Paris with this huge shootout and everything, and nobody talks about it, or there's no police or any, all that stuff. You throw it out the window, or how he falls down the steps like
Yeah.
so comedically. Yeah, it's just balls to the wall, fun entertainment, and I'm sure a ton of work goes into the all the choreography of the stunts and everything. So it's cool to see a movie that's really focused on that. So yeah,
Yeah.
that's my number 10.
Donnie Yen's really cool.
Donnie Yen.
The
Yeah.
stairwell final set piece is really cool. They kind of do the same location. I feel like that Paris, like the craziest what do we call those? Like the roundabouts? Yeah, the
Roundabout.
roundabouts, I think.
The
Yeah, yeah,
roundabout
like
in
the
Paris. Yeah.
craziest roundabout you'll ever see. Like that Impossible also does. They do this in their own way. Yeah, there's uh so much cool stuff in this.
I feel like this one out of all of them felt the most epic in scale. Like it was like him trying to do like an old school epic, just in terms of how many the
Yeah.
variety of locations, like jumping from Japan to Italy and then France in the end. Like it's just crazy how vast this movie is and how big it feels. And it all stems from like a really small contained movie like for the first one. It's kind of
Yeah.
crazy how far they branched out. And yeah,
Yeah.
this might be like the final movie of the franchise, and honestly might like it couldn't have gone out on a better note. Like it was such a gorgeous and just
Yeah, and
incredibly fun movie.
it also ends in a very like both Western and Kung Fu spiritual movie sort of way. Like that's kind of what it reminded me of.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
the
like
duel at the end.
it's like a
Yeah.
Barry Lyndon scene or something. They had
It's like really breathtaking, the wherever they are, and then the sun is setting. It's
Yeah.
yeah, kind of beautiful and also ridiculous at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
that's a great pick. It was also it was in my top like 2025 for honorable mentions. It's probably the best or my favorite action movie that came out in the 2023 for sure.
Nice. Yeah. It's my number 10.
All right.
You are
Okay.
next.
My number 9 is, I mean,
Oh, whoa, whoa.
my number 10.
Jumping the gun a bit.
My number 10 is also my favorite action movie of 2023. It's Sofia Coppola's Priscilla.
Yeah, no, I was doing something
Oh,
like
yeah.
that.
Hell yeah.
It is the zone of interest.
I would put it against John Wick any day as an action film. But yeah, like Priscilla, it was between this and Are You There, God? Yeah, and I just went with this because like I think Priscilla really maybe affected me more on a personal level when I was watching it. I just found I just got so deep into this story, I remember, and it's so intimate and it's so beautiful and it's such a perfect like I guess like vision of this actual of the way this actually went down. It's perfect for Sofia Coppola. Um, and yeah, I just really like Priscilla. Yeah,
I feel like it's Sofia Coppola making it. She's going really back to what makes her movies great, which is a lot
yeah,
of very kind of isolating set pieces with a very kind of troubled young woman reckoning
yeah,
with her loneliness. So
yeah,
in a lot of ways, it's her going back to basics, but one of her, I think, most just well constructed movies and just more like
yeah,
entertaining, I guess you could call it. And like the costuming, the sets, it's all like very like Sofia Coppola-esque. So it was great to see her
yeah,
like
yeah.
fully envisioning this story.
hmm Yeah, and it's just like an interest to begin with. It's interesting to tell this story from the perspective of this young girl, Priscilla Presley, but also just the way bring us someone like Sofia Coppola in to go about it in her unique way is like adds a whole nother layer to it, which is what I liked. And yeah, it's such a return to form for her after making like that On the Rocks movie, which is so nothing and does not need to exist at all.
I kind of dug it. Maybe it was COVID.
Yeah,
It was like COVID times. I needed something.
very medium on it, you know, like
Yeah, it is a medium movie. Yeah. Did you see Priscilla, John?
I have not seen Priscilla. That's one I forgot about. I feel like I saw the trailer for it at every movie I saw um, this year, but at least for me, it seemed like it came and went. Like I don't really remember it being in theaters. But yeah, I do hope to see it at some point, though. So yeah,
yeah,
you've seen
yeah,
it, Jake?
Jay.
I have. I again, top 20. Great movie.
Mm.
I love Sofia Coppola is another director that I'm so happy she had a movie come out this year. It's like and it got like a return to form, as Luke said. She's pumping out
Yeah,
great
and this one's
stuff.
definitely way more under the radar, which is why, like, say, John, you haven't seen it, but it's another like auteur movie, um, with like a big concept in a way, in its own way. But it's
Hmm.
yeah,
It's told very like understatedly, in Sofia
yeah,
Coppola's
exactly,
fashion.
exactly, yeah,
Well,
It
which is what's
doesn't
yeah,
cool.
it
Yeah,
doesn't
yeah.
necessarily demonize anyone. It's very just kind of presents itself, which I just loved. Yeah.
Does Tom Hanks show up in like a fat suit and accent?
Yeah, he's trying to
Because
kill
then
Jacob
I'll
at a
see it.
wedding.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a nice
yeah,
pick.
that's Priscilla.
Good stuff. My number 10 is at one point this was a lot higher, which is a lot of other movies have come out, but The Boy and the Heron by Hayao Miyazaki, which I am assuming is on your guys' list if you've seen it. It's just a tour de
That's my
force.
number. That's my number 9. So we can like
So you can
skip me
talk about it,
next.
yeah. Yeah.
It's like
You
my
can
11 or so. It's
okay.
close. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Hayao Miyazaki just means a lot to me, and I think a lot of us out there. And this is his final movie. It was just,
Oh,
so they say. We'll see. But I feel like this movie encapsulated like a lot of the things he's just interested in, like family dynamics and legacy, war, and kind of like childhood alienation, kind of what you were saying with Priscilla in a weird way. And it kind of just goes down this wormhole of exploration and self-discovery, and it gets really fucking crazy, which I was so delighted by. Like it's such like a primal experience at the movies when you see this movie, and just the score is just incredible. The visuals, like everything's hand drawn, of course. It's Miyazaki. It's like I have to put this movie on the list. It's but probably not in the top latter half of his movies in terms of quality, but it might be like his most ambitious movies in Spirited Away and just all the things that it's trying to tackle and how many risks it takes in the storytelling and everything. But yeah, you guys can chime in. I absolutely loved it. I was just it was really special to have a Miyazaki movie come out this year, and like because he's one of those artists that's not gonna be around forever, similar to like Scorsese and people that made movies this year. So yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I mean, like he's in his 80s at this point, isn't he?
Late 80s, yeah.
Yeah,
He's getting up
that's
there.
crazy. But yeah, I mean, there are just so many like heavy hitter directors this year that I didn't even like when we were talking about that earlier. I didn't even think about Miyazaki. But yeah, this one was just like most of his movies. Just yeah, it's really ambitious and emotional. It gets kind of to like a core that a lot of and it just seems so specific to him that you really get out of watching his movies, like Spirited Away or something. Um, so yeah, it's one of those that I kept thinking about a while, like the next few days after I saw it, and also thought about a lot too because there was a lot that I just didn't really understand or get in the moment too. That it makes me want to like go back and see again, and yeah, just yeah, really good though. Just missed my top 10.
Yeah, I heard this movie in like Japanese means I don't know, like the boy who's I don't know where you I forget what it means. It's like where it's more about loss, the title, rather than the boy and
That's the
the
original
heron. Like
Japanese title. Like the boy and the heron
yeah,
is only the American.
American title. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's like really but yeah, that's what the core of it is. And but yet yeah, like you said, John, there's so much this movie goes down so many rabbit holes that you're like, I don't understand that. It's like
Yeah,
it keeps diving into it, but it's so the world building is so crazy and imaginative, and it only will come something like that only comes from Japan, like this unexplainable imagination that this guy has. And yeah, it was great to see in a movie theater as well. Um, I've never seen one in a movie theater, and it just felt
Mhm.
so
same.
right, you know.
Yeah. I think it's like one of the pure pieces of like art where it's like you can't comprehend how it was made, and it's like a canvas of just a million different sort of strokes that you can't always parse out, but like when you do emotionally kind of connect to a thread, it just becomes like the most rewarding thing ever. And that's why I love his movies, because like they're not nothing is spoon fed. Like it's a lot of abstract sort of things that a lot of different people grasp onto. So yeah, the man is good at what he does. So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
that's
That's what
my
I like about his movies in general is that they're not the easiest to just like comprehend. They're just not like basic, straightforward. Uh, yeah, they're just a lot more interesting than your standard just animated movie like this. It's
yeah.
just way different than it makes me like think about Pixar and like I think Pixar they're great storytellers and everything, but this is just something that's so which I guess Pixar I would is what I'd normally think of like the American like
Yeah,
standard of
it's the
like
Yeah.
standard. Yeah.
animated quality. Yeah, and it's just yeah, it feels so different than that and so unique. So yeah, good pick.
I'll be talking about a Pixar movie if we do the worst of the year. So we'll table that
Oh
one.
wow.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot a Pixar movie came out this year. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yep. Pretty rough, but yeah, that's my
Ugh.
number 10.
And my number 9.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. Well, then my number nine, which I actually just looked, and I doubt this will be on either of your lists, I guess. But my number nine is Beau is Afraid, the new Ari Aster movie. And I feel like this is a very divisive film this
Yeah.
year. Um, and while watching it, honestly, I was kind of conflicted as to whether I liked it all that much, and there would be something that would, well, I mean, as if you've seen Beau is Afraid, you kind of get the gist, and if you know anything about it, it's about this extremely anxious, agoraphobic, ambivalent guy, played by Joaquin Phoenix, who does obviously he's gonna play this character really well. Um, and yeah, I think there were certain things that I could see why it maybe wouldn't resonate with someone or wouldn't it would just bother them or also be a little bit too long. I could see that, but this was something that as it kept going on, I was feeling like that like discomfort that like a movie that you feel like seen by a movie, but it's not really seen in the way you want to be seen. And I think nowadays, like our generation, we everybody has like their sort of like mental health resume of like all the stuff about them. Like everybody focuses a lot on mental health, which I think is great. And then this movie happened to strike some chords that it just recognized stuff that like my sister and I talk about with our childhood, specifically the themes of like family guilt, and which is heavily prevalent with Bo's mother in this, and also just the general themes of like not living but not living a life, and just the sort of mundane a mundane lifestyle, and just the agoraphobia that Bo kind of lives with. A lot of that, just to an extreme degree, I felt like connected with me, and I feel like maybe if it doesn't necessarily, and I could just be talking out of my ass, but if it doesn't necessarily fit with how you feel towards the world sometimes, or you feel about towards your family, that maybe it would just seem like an annoying mess. But yeah, this was one that after the fact I felt like uncomfortable, but in like a way that I felt understood in a way. So yeah, I don't know if that I'm trying to sound like more profound than I am, but yeah, that's why it's my number 9, because I really think after the fact, like really thinking about it, that I felt there was something there that like struck a chord with me. So yeah, and I'm curious what you guys think, because I saw Luke, you gave it a little bit lower of a score on Letterboxd.
Ooh, the Letterboxd call out.
Yeah, like I definitely like relate to Beau is Afraid. But like I think I just like didn't vibe with it, totally. Like I don't know the difference there, because yeah, I definitely can like I've been a very isolated person who would like walk outside one day and then see a car cross the street and be like, oh my God, like that's why I
Yeah.
totally like get it, and stuff like the absurdity of it. And I definitely thought like there were definitely so many things where I was like, that's fucking hilarious watching Joaquin like freaking out all the time. But yeah, I just thought it was like a little. I did watch this while I had a fever, so let's
Oh, well,
keep
that's
that
why.
let's keep that in mind as well. And it's long, and I'm like
Yeah.
have a headache and a fever.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just felt it was long, and I wasn't like super into I thought like the mother shit is like works and is relatable, but it's like too much of it and towards the end. And
Yeah.
I'm just like mixed on it, you know what I mean? Like I definitely like it more than Midsummer by Ari Aster. That movie I like probably hate. And then like I don't like think it's great like Hereditary necessarily, but
Yeah.
could I rewatch Beau is Afraid? Probably, but I probably won't. It's so long. So, and I'm not like super interested, but I kind of wish I was in that category of the people who loved Beau is Afraid. That's like what I was going for when I watched it.
I think I'm like
Yeah,
right
that's fair.
in the middle of both of you. Because I'm like kind of what Luke was saying. I'm pretty mixed on Ari Aster as a director to begin with. But I saw this movie in IMAX, and I think that's like the optimal way to experience this movie, because it kind of
Yeah.
just washes over you, and the absurdism like works on about half the audience. And I feel like it's like a really infectious sort of collective kind of experience of everyone kind of manifesting their anxiety in this movie, because like there's so many, like you were saying, John, like these kind of generational trauma aspects of this movie that are really hard to sort of portray on screen, but somehow he pulled it off. So to me, like it's really rough around the edges, but the sort of primal anxious feelings that he conveyed, and also credit to Joaquin, who's incredible in the movie. Like I think that's like a really good achievement. I just think it needs to be cut down like by a lot. And I think some things were dialed up to a little bit too much, but I'm in the camp. I think it's really great. I also, when I saw this movie in theaters, I saw Christopher Nolan at the theater. He was buying popcorn right next to
What?
me. So that enhanced my experience a bit. Um, but yeah, no, I thought it was really damn good.
Yeah, the people who like this movie, I like respect all those people's movies opinions. So I also like makes me wish I liked it more. It's not like a
Mhm.
bunch of people But I guess Midsummer is that like way too, where it's like everyone seems to like Midsummer. But
I don't want to
Bo was Afraid is definitely different.
attack any of the Ari Aster fans because they're pretty loyal. Um, but just the fact that he got this movie made on a pretty just high scale budget and like a crazy pitch, like you could imagine,
Yeah.
in the room.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and like we need more movies like that. So I kind of want to just be on the more positive side, I guess, of the criticisms and shit like that. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that he's just a director kind of doing his own thing, doing these original stories. And yeah, there are just so many, like we talked about earlier, so many like movies from big auteur directors now that it's like the Marvel movies are kind of in the shadows and not as big. But yeah, I liked Beau is Afraid a lot. I think yeah, I think we all can like go to like extreme lengths to like exaggerate our anxieties and the feelings we get from that, and I feel like it did that in a completely bonkers way. Um, but I liked it. Yeah,
I want to see John is Afraid. That's what I want to see.
yeah. Oh God, I don't. Yeah, I don't. I see
John
that
just
every day.
Sean working on the website, his
Yeah.
sunlight starts creeping in.
Oh God, yeah. No, I see that every day. I look in the mirror. It's not pretty.
One of my favorites.
His wife is really looks like Godzilla -1 to him.
Yeah, if you could see the world through my eyes, that's what you'd see. Yeah.
Everyone's a kaiju walking around. One of my favorite scenes of the year in Beau is Afraid is actually the sex scene with Parker Posey. Like that's one of the funniest, most just like uncomfortable things that's ever came out this year. I thought it was
Yeah.
fantastic.
But that too, yeah, like how do you make that like funny
Yeah.
and like that and yeah, he pulled it off. Um, but I can't imagine. Yeah, I mean, Joaquin Phoenix doing a lot of things, and I mean, just this character, he just yeah,
The
he's funny.
physicality, like he's got giant testicles for some reason, and
Yeah.
he's just so rough around the edges. Yeah, like
Which
you,
the
you-
testicles thing I also resonated with a
yeah,
lot. That
you're a
too
little blue
was
balled yourself. Yeah,
yeah. Well, anyway, that's my number nine. Beau is Afraid. So
cool.
yeah,
I'm glad it made someone's list because it was a controversial movie, but also like
yeah,
a really important
it's a good one
conversation.
to talk about. Whether or not you liked it, it's yeah. I feel like there's
It's
still
also
plenty to
like
talk
kind of
about.
cool seeing Joaquin reduced to like a child in it. That's
Mhm.
also really cool.
Yeah,
Like I feel like that's like off. I mean, he actually now that I think about it, he has kind of been reduced to a child in roles, but like
Yeah.
in this way, in
This
this
is
way.
stuck, and it's never been as overt as this. Like this is just
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
just
This
like
is
he's such an archetype of for anxiety and like kind of in his other movies, but this was just like he was an emotion bottled up in this man. Like that's all it was. And it was
yep. All right. Well, I guess Luke, we got your number nine already.
yeah.
so
So
skip to my number nine. All right. You mentioned this before, Luke, but it made my top 10, and that is Are You There, God? It is Me, Marguerite. It is a Judy Blume adaptation. I don't know if you guys grew up reading Judy Blume at all, but I loved her books. I'd read them a lot in school, and I'd write like multiple book reports over the years over her stuff, including this book. So it was really, really great to see this adapted because like Luke was saying, like it's kind of just a series of vignettes of this girl like dealing with the suburban sort of contrast from like her life in New York. It's pretty mundane, not a lot of conflict, but this movie is extremely cinematic for what the movie is trying to make. Like everything's
yeah.
incredibly well detailed. The language of it is really profound. Like all the actresses playing the young girls are fantastic. Benny Safdie's amazing. Like what a great year he had, and he's such a great
Forgot he's
father
in this one too.
great
Yeah.
father figure. Yeah, he's so good. Like when they don't their furniture hasn't arrived yet, and he just like opens like a lawn chair in their living room and just like sits back. It's like he's
Yeah.
so charming in it. Rachel McAdams, like I think she should have gotten an Oscar nom for this movie. She's like
Yeah,
so
she's
well
great.
realized, and like in the book, she's barely a character at all. But this is like a three-dimensional, like she reminded me of like my own mom and like other moms you grew up around that are just kind of trying to do their best to cater to their kids, but also do their own venture, like have their own sort of ventures in life. And I thought that was really a beautiful thing. And yeah, and like you said before, Luke, about just like it's incredibly like down the middle kind of like tone for this movie, but it's just so well done on every level. And just me being a fan of the book, like it was kind of a home run. And I'm gonna watch this movie like over and over probably throughout the years as sort of like a good comfort watch. So yeah, I freaking loved this movie. Did you see it, John?
Yeah, I did. I saw this a few months ago, and this was another one I feel like I just never heard about being out, and then I just saw it on Letterboxd, and yeah, caught it. And again, yeah, like you guys said, this was it's a very like comforting movie, nice. I remember reading Judy Blume when I was younger, but didn't nothing really like stuck with me to an adult. Like I can remember reading them, and not really don't really remember the stories all that well. Um, but yeah, it's like it's interesting that I feel like we would read these as kids too, because this is like Margaret is thinking of these very like adult type of questions that she's like asking herself, and um, so yeah, I think it's just really well done. I really liked Rachel McAdams and Benny Safdie as the parents, um, and yeah, this was one it didn't stick with me as much, but I of course liked it quite a lot. So yeah.
I was listening to Greta Gerwig on WTF, and she like goes through how she's like trying to raise her kid without religion, just kind of like the
Mm,
parents in this. And I just found it like so. I was like, oh, that's that whole that whole movie, like yeah, it's like that theme. I don't know. It's just like really. It's just interesting as like someone who was forced down with what the religion was gonna be. I don't know, just like looking at that as not raising a kid with a religion as a healthy thing is refreshing for
Yeah,
me. Yeah.
it
yeah.
is because I mean, growing up around religion, it's like this ham-fisted thing that's like kind of nauseating, and this movie kind of treats it so delicately, where it's like trying to define her, and she wants to define herself, and like everyone around her is not like trying to force feed it to her, but they really want her to have it because they benefited so much from their experience with religion. And I think that's such like a thing that's never explored in movies like so delicately or as lighthearted as this. So like where you actually want to watch people talk about, Judaism and Catholicism and stuff. And yeah, and
Well,
like
yeah. What's
Kathy
interesting
Bates
is like
like makes it
how
funny.
she like feels like so like lost without it too. Because I do remember also though feeling like
Yeah.
because I had religion as a kid, a specific one that I understood and learned about. Like I have such a sense of identity, even though like I, dropped it completely later and eventually questioned everything about it,
Hmm.
and but I did that with everything. Also, I like I think as recognizing as a kid how like that can be important as
Mhm.
well, just like how much that holds on your life, I guess. Yeah. It's like
Yeah,
deep
Definitely.
stuff, but this movie's really light and like fun.
yeah.
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's the
That's what.
master
Yeah, it
stroke of
is.
it. Yeah.
It is like you said, Jake. It's not really. It feels like it's not really touched on that much, but these are like real thoughts and like feelings and questions that kids have. But um, I guess it's more specific if you grew up with a religious background like this, um,
Yeah.
in like a typical American family like that. But uh, yeah, yeah, really nice movie. My number eight, I know has got to be on your guys' list too, and I'm sure you'll have a lot of good stuff to say about it. But it's May December. Yeah, May December. Almost said the wrong month. Um, yeah, Julianne
I
Moore,
didn't see
Natalie
May,
Portman.
December. I saw November, February.
Wait a second. Yeah, I got May October from the Walmart $5 bin. Is that the same movie?
The cinematic universe of month to months. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and what a nice surprise of a movie. Didn't know anything about this until it came on Netflix, and then started to see people log it on Letterboxd. And um, yeah, Todd Haynes. What else has he done?
Yeah,
Safe,
Carol,
uh,
safe.
Safe. Oh,
Dark
Carol.
Waters.
Right. Okay.
Carol's like his big I feel like most known movie.
Yeah, I'm honestly not super familiar with Todd Haynes besides this, but yeah, I really liked May December. It was um, just such an interesting story overall too, based on like the original. I of course went down the rabbit hole of like looking up what it's based on, which is just such a fascinating like weird thing. So, and it's interesting, like especially nowadays, to have this movie like subverting the gender roles of having this woman predator sort of um, manipulating this younger boy into this, and I guess seeing how Natalie Portman just sort of like follows that and tries to match it and ends up in a way doing the same thing. And um, yeah, I thought it was really interesting. Also, very like subtly funny and dry, and the acting in this was so great too by like the main three. Um, I
Hmm.
forget what's the name of
The
the
guy.
guy.
It's Charles Melton.
Charles Melton. Yeah, he was really great too. Um, so yeah, I know I'm pretty sure this has got to be higher up on your guys' list, right?
It is. It's very
Yeah,
high on
yeah,
my list.
it's coming up for me, yeah, but so I'll like save it.
Just like Todd Haynes will save safe. Didn't
All
work
right.
out. Yeah, glad I made your top 10 because yeah, I can't
Yeah,
wait to talk about it.
cool. Yeah, that's my number eight.
All right. My number 8 is Poor Things, which is an amazing movie. I remember when it started, I didn't know anything about Poor Things, and then, which is the best way to go into this guy's movies, of course.
Yeah,
And when it started, I remember like first like I don't know, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, I'm like thinking, I'm like, what the hell is happening? Am I gonna like walk out? Am I gonna leave this movie? And then the more I watched it, the more I loved it. And when this is a movie that like evolves as it goes, as this character evolves so much, and it doesn't really reveal what the whole picture is until the very end, and I love that. And once it reveals what this movie's really about, it's great. Yeah, I mean, Poor Things is so yeah, there's nothing really like it, and yeah, it's fantastic. And Emma Stone just will do whatever. She's so cool. She's the best.
We love Emma Stone.
yeah, yeah. She had a really weird, an awesome weird year with The
Yeah,
Curse and
yeah,
Poor Things.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
bro.
mean,
I was gonna
sorry,
say she worked with like two of the biggest weirdos in the industry,
Yeah.
like Yorgos and Nathan
Nathan
Fielder.
Fielder.
It's
Yeah,
like pretty
yeah,
great.
they're all their own.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Poor Things is like an incredible performance. But
Mhm.
like I actually think that The Curse might be like my favorite Emma Stone performance like ever, which is really saying something. But like I just think
I'd
Yeah.
probably agree.
what
Yeah.
that really lets her do is like insane, and the amount of layers to person she plays is just it's wild. Like it's just mind boggling to watch her like uh talk and feel guilt and contradict herself and try to really create her as she tries to really create her own narrative. She just ruins it. Like it's so great. But Poor Things is also really great.
Yeah.
Yeah, Poor Things is coming up on my list too.
Me too.
Loved it. Yeah.
Good stuff. My number 8 is a film by Martin Scorsese, the well-known director, Killers of the Flower Moon. Probably objectively one of the best movies to come out this year. It's incredible. Um, there's a lot of controversy that's been annoying me about this movie in terms of the adaptation that him and Eric Roth did that was focused way less on the FBI. And like in Scorsese in sort of his twilight years of movie making to focus on the couple and this kind of perverse love story, I think is just a genius way to go about like a really, really ambitious and kind of prophetic sort of story about how Americana is gonna like play out. and to focus on the humanity of it. And I think like only someone as wise and as confident as Scorsese at his age would do something like that. And
Yeah.
like the technicality of this, like the technical aspects of this movie, like the music and the cinematography is just all so it's not showy at all. It's just such good storytelling. And
Yeah.
possibly like Leo's best work he's ever done, in my opinion. Like Lily Gladstone is gave maybe the performances of the year, like all in service of just like this insanely compelling and obviously very traumatic point in our history. And it's like a really important movie, and obviously not going to be as rewatchable as all the other Scorsese movies that we watch like 5 times a year, Luke and I. But
Yeah.
like maybe might be like one of his, 5 or 6 masterpieces in his canon, in my opinion. Like it's just such a confident and incredibly thought-provoking movie that just takes its time, and how meticulous it is to get into the psyche of all these characters and this kind of machinations that took place in the killing of this and the genocide of these tribe people. So yeah, I mean, not always a fun movie to talk about, but I do love to just sing Scorsese's praises because I do believe he is our greatest living director, and this is another, masterpiece. And I'm sure you guys are might be on your list too because it's a damn great movie.
Yeah, I heard another criticism about it where it was like they don't tell the story from the Native American, like from the
That's
perspective
what
of
I
the
heard too.
Osage, and I'm just
Yeah.
like, I'm like, but you don't get like how much it enhances what this could be. You know, like if you tell it from the Osage, to me, it's all just like sad and it's like suffering and stuff. Like we get that, but like I feel he adds so much to it by like doing it from making like Leo the not protagonist but the main character, and then that which is also having an anti-hero, which is also the most Scorsese thing to do. um
He's just
yeah,
the middleman though. Like
that's just what I think about it.
he's like stuck between like just the De Niro and the Lily Gladstone sort of like fist of fury in a way. Like he's kind of like the catalyst um
Yeah.
in a way, and like that's why I think Leo's so damn good because he kind of gives himself up to like all of the surrounding sort of conflict that's just brewing in this movie. And yeah, I agree. I don't subscribe to that criticism either because also the ending is like what caps it. Like Scorsese does that
Yeah,
eulogy, like he can never tell a story like completely from their perspective because he could
of
never
course.
he
Yeah,
can't
exactly.
imagine
Yeah.
the
Hmm.
fucking just horror that befell them. And I think that's why this movie's a masterpiece. Like he's telling the story for them and not for to show like he has the perspective. Like he's trying to get inside their heads or whatever. So it's like such a selfless movie in that way.
Yeah, exactly. It is, and it's clearly on the side of the um the people with, with the
Careful.
injustice.
Yeah. Well, it's like I don't know. That's
No,
such a
I don't. I'm
weird
not saying
I'm
that.
just
criticism.
kidding. Yeah, I'm just kidding.
That's such a weird criticism too, because it's like, yeah, like exactly what you're saying. Like they're showing what like Leo's the catalyst for all this to happen, and it's like you're not. I don't know. You're gonna make a movie about something specific where it involves like an anti-hero. You make a movie about Hitler or something. And we're like, hey, we didn't talk about like the Allies in World War II enough. Or like, it's like, well, it wasn't really about that, but they were like affected. But yeah, I don't know, and that's probably a bad analogy, but
No,
um,
it's right because everyone wanted the kind of rise of the FBI to be the sort of focal point, and how like Jesse Plemons' character, how he kind of came across this, and like how their kind of process to take them down or whatever. But like even though like the movie's 3.5 hours, like they do capture the FBI's point of view too. Like I think it's just a kaleidoscope of a lot of different things, and people just couldn't latch on to certain things. I don't know, but I'm glad we all seem to love the movie here, so that's all that matters.
mhm. My number seven is a movie that everyone saw, pretty much everyone on the planet saw. It's Barbie. Um, yeah, and what else is there to say about Barbie? Everyone has seen it and talked about it a bunch. I will say it's my least favorite movie to talk about with people who aren't cinebums, and that's when you just talk to people at work or when we were just back visiting some family in Wisconsin. They're like, it's just so weird. like it's just like it's weird, you know, it's kind of fun, I guess, but it's just like here, and you can't have like a can't have a conversation with certain people about this, even though everyone's seen it and talks about it. But
It's a
It's
great
just
way
so
to put it.
weird.
I just get so annoyed hearing some
Such a
specific people.
straightforward, like surface level movie, like
Yeah.
to
Like they're just like they think this is just a Mattel ad. They go into that and it's like, oh, big movie stars in it that it's I don't know. You can't even say like, you know, it's like directed by Greta Gerwig, right? And they'd be like, who? Like they don't, you know, it's
Yeah, yeah.
just like yeah, I don't know. It was all right, I guess. It was kind of weird. Um or I also heard while in Wisconsin like the whole thing uh of like questioning a man for watching Barbie or something too, as you know. Um, which
yeah.
I, you know, maybe I'm just stuck
It's
in my
like
liberal bubble,
you're
my
like
woke liberal
exactly the
bubble.
what
Yeah,
the
you're too
movie's
woke
trying
for
to go
your
against.
Wisconsin.
Yeah,
I mean, a
and
lot of what you're talking about is like kind of Greta and Noah Baumbach, like they're kind of poking fun at those people in a way. Like that's
yeah,
kind of the so in a way that, you know, the movie works even better with all those criticisms, in my opinion, from the
yeah,
outside. 'Cause it's kind of, you know, it's kind of made for a very specific demographic. It just happened to blow up and be like $1 billion movie because it's like a very
yeah,
tongue-in-cheek and high concept comedy. You know, it's not really that accessible in my opinion for that many people to be seeing it. But if you know, you know, it's a great movie.
yeah. And I really, yeah, it was just a really well done movie. And of course, how can you make like, uh, yeah, that's what I felt like. I'm not comparing these. I think Barbie is a better overall film, but like even when like the Lego movie came out a while back, it was like, what is this just going to be like an hour and a half ad for kids to buy Legos? And it turned into be like this like cute, charming, fun story. And so it's like hard to take something like this and make a an interesting and funny movie like this out of it. And yeah, I love the production design. Um, I thought Margot Robbie and Ryan Gosling were both just perfect in those roles, and yeah, I loved where they went with it. So um, yeah, it's my number seven. Glad that it got a lot of people excited to go to the movies. So yeah.
What was your guys' favorite song from the Barbie soundtrack?
Ooh.
I mean, I only
Well,
remember the two like
I
biggest ones,
I
so I
remember
don't
yeah
really have a
like
good answer for that. Yeah.
There's
I remember
Pink,
like the
there's
main pink one and the Ken one. Like
I
Dance
really
the
like the
the
Billie Eilish
Dua
song at the
Lipa
end.
song, Dance the Night Away is a big one. The yeah, I'm just Ken. It's really those four, yeah. But
I really like the Billie Eilish one at the end because the
yeah,
movie really ends
oh
in
yeah,
a like a Toy Story sort of fashion. Uh,
that's what got the
yeah, the
tears
ending of the
flowing
movie is
for
very
everybody.
magical.
Yeah, it kind of feels stripped back. It's like Greta Gerwig kind of like personally putting her touch on that ending there. It's really beautiful. And Billie Eilish.
Yeah, if you don't
That's,
understand Barbie, you're a very like behind individual.
yeah. I don't have
Yeah,
time
yeah.
for you to catch up to me. Okay.
Yeah, we get
Yeah.
it's like hit the road or get out or whatever that saying
Yeah.
is, you know. If you don't get Barbie.
I was trying to think of some
Crazy.
of like the funny moments, like when Margot Robbie's in the real world too, and I don't know, like subtle things too with like how kids talk nowadays, or at least how you see it like on the internet, and she's at the school and they call her a fascist, and
Yeah,
she's
yeah.
just like, I'm
Yeah,
a
yeah.
fascist. Like, yeah, like those moments I thought were pretty funny. But yeah, I could see uh, certain people it just not really they just don't really get it maybe. But yeah, um,
Yep.
that's my number seven, Barbie.
All right, my number seven is The Zone of Interest, which I saw over the weekend. I think it's the last movie of 2023, but I will watch. I watched before I set this list in stone. Um, but yeah, The Zone of Interest is like an insane, an insane movie to exist. Um, it's the Jonathan Glazer who I've only seen one other movie that he made. It's like that Under the Skin movie, which really puts you on edge. as well. But yeah, Zone of Interest is like a Holocaust movie, unlike you'll ever see. And it is incredibly creative, and it tells this like insane perspective of people who just have a very nice, privileged, comfy home outside of a concentration camp, and don't seem to care at all about all the suffering that is going on, and they can hear very clearly going over the wall, like that they live right by. And yeah, there's just so much to unpack out of this. But yeah, like what a movie to exist.
Yeah, I've not seen this yet. I really wanted to see it before we did our list, but never got to it. But glad it made your list. It makes me want to see it more.
It's hard to kind of see these days. I don't think the release is that wide yet, so I think a lot
Yeah.
of people that aren't in like LA, New York, or major cities are able to. But yeah, I'll talk about it later. But definitely see it in the theater because like it's such an immersive kind
Yeah,
of
it's
haunting
great
experience.
cinematography. It's very immersive. The sound design's great.
Yeah,
Um,
Was it nominated for Best Picture too?
like best
yeah.
foreign film.
No,
Oh,
best
foreign film.
picture, best director, a lot of stuff. Best sound. Yeah, I
Cool.
was
I'm
surprised. It
sure
got a
it'll get
lot
a
of.
good. It should get a big release
Yeah,
now than
it'll
it
get
is
a
before the
boost. Yeah,
Oscars.
because the Oscars exactly. My number seven
Yep.
is kind of the opposite tonality of Zone of Interest, but I have The Holdovers at number seven, which is a great movie, directed by Alexander Payne, who is back in his kind of traditional form of filmmaking, which I'm happy about. Huge fan of like Election and about Schmidt and a lot of his movies. So, and I think this might be up there as one of his best. I think it's fantastic. Um, I think this movie is just so deceitfully simple. So a lot of people, some people write it off that look for more flashing
Yeah,
and kind of experimental filmmaking. I don't know, stuff that's more flashy. But this movie digs into like three characters better than most movies that have come out in the last like 5 years. Like they're so well fleshed out. You feel like they're your compatriots, as Paul Giamatti kind of quotes. You feel like you're in their sort of world and their Christmas vacation that you're experiencing with them. And it's just so poignant and at like every level, like in terms of just running the gambit of emotions that you want to feel when watching a movie like this. And yeah, it's just like I don't think Alexander Payne gets enough credit for making a movie like developing a tone that's so specific, the kind of this warm hug of a character study. And it's like really hard to do, and I don't think he gets enough credit for it. But a lot of the credit goes to Paul Giamatti, who crafted this insanely just at the same time you loathe him, but then at the other points in this movie when it kind of rears its head, you'd love him. And I think a lot of that is Giamatti crafting just such a three-dimensional and well-realized character. Um, and this movie doesn't really like speak for the times or anything, or it's just a very broad and kind of timeless story about companionship and friendship and human nature. The Dominic Sessa character I found like way too relatable in the sense of just he's kind of accepted a lot of his loneliness in his life and he just kind of makes do with what he's got. And I thought that was really profoundly beautiful too. Yeah, I mean, like this, I think I can recommend to this movie, as John was kind of saying with Barbie, I could really recommend this movie to anyone, and I think most people can get something out of it. So, yeah, I just thought it was great.
yeah, it was cool to see Giamatti be such in the spotlight this year and in the mainstream with like award season, and he's playing such a him role. Um, and yeah, this movie I feel like is underrated because of how simple it is, and yeah,
Yeah, it almost seems like simple and like familiar, like you've seen something like it before, but it's yeah, I really love the holdovers. It'll come up later on my list
yep,
to
same.
do.
Movie I think I could see myself watching like every Christmas season because
Christmas. Yeah.
it just
Yeah, yeah,
captures that melancholic kind of downbeat feel of Christmas that I like not in like the Christmas Vacations or the Elves of the world. And like I think this kind of fits that slot of like kind of depressing, kind of lo-fi Christmas movies. So
For sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
I will be
Or
buying
you,
it on for my Blu-ray shelf for next year.
you kind of get overstimulated with like the whimsical family Christmas movies. Holdovers is a nice
Yeah.
break from
Yeah.
that. All right, yeah, my number six is The Civil Dead, um, which this is a small little indie movie. I think it's one of those that came out like festivals in 2022, but then had a bigger release in 2023. Um, and it's on Showtime, I believe. But I don't know if you guys are
Okay.
familiar with Whitmer Thomas. You
Yeah,
know
you
of
told
him?
me about this one episode, but you can like re
Oh, okay.
yeah, about this movie.
Yeah, I must have. Yeah, Whitmer Thomas. He's just an alternative comedian. I don't really know him all that well, but I feel like I've heard about him a lot from other comedian podcasts and stuff talk about him. But yeah, he made this movie with I think his lifelong friend Clay Tatum, who they star in it together, wrote it, and then Clay directed. Um, and yeah, this is a nice little indie comedy that I really loved this year, and it really, for the most part, it's there's a very small cast, and for the most part, you are just with these two guys, and it's just a lot about loneliness and friendship and um, kind of needing to cut out friends in a way, but also needing having the need for friends, if that makes
Mm,
sense. Um, but basically, what the plot line of the story is that Clay is just this photographer in LA, freelance photographer. He's kind of just been living. Um, I guess kind of like Bo, but to a less extreme extent, has just been living this ambivalent life lately. And his girlfriend is going out of town for the weekend, so he's like, "All right, instead of which I don't know about you, Luke, who's living with a significant other, but there's often times where Carly leaves for a weekend, and I'm like, man, I feel like I should just do like nothing this weekend."
haven't had
Um,
that privilege yet.
That's definitely something that crosses my mind when I'm like have a free week and I was like, I could try and be social and go out and do things, or I could just do nothing. But he promises her that he's going to like get out there and try to do
Mhm.
some photo shoots for clients.
Right.
But he's still kind of craving like not having responsibility and stuff. And he's just out shooting one day, just like randomly around town, and he sees Whitmer Thomas, who was this guy he went to high school with and was like friends in high school, but hasn't spoken to since. I think they both ended up moving to LA to do like film stuff. Whitmer went out to be like an actor, but they haven't talked to each other in years. And all he just sees him there, and it turns out that Whitmer is dead, and he's a ghost, and the only person that can see him is Clay. And so
Mm.
yeah, it kind of just goes through this friendship of um, Whitmer being a ghost and being lonely because there's only one person that can see him, so sort of attaching himself to Clay, and then Clay also having that need for like companionship and friendship, um, but getting to a point where he feels a little bit too like he can't live his life by being the only friend to this guy now who's dead and can't connect with people anymore. And it gets funny and like sweet and everything. And then I think the ending is it kind of caught me off guard, and I think was just a good like cap to the story. So
Mhm.
it's really just like it's a nice indie comedy, very like
Mhm.
chill. Um, I think the title is a play on Evil Dead, I'm sure, but it's not a horror
Not
movie.
like that.
Yeah, he just happens to be a ghost, um, but yeah, I just thought it was really interesting, a fun story between these two friends who it's kind of like needing each other, but then also um, getting to a point where yeah, it feels like it's best to cut somebody out. Um, yeah, I felt like it's definitely a relatable movie for um, people our age
Yeah,
nowadays.
yeah. I feel like I like that theme because I feel like adulthood is like your view on friends becomes so different
Yeah,
because like um when you're like high school, when you're in school, you like feel like you must have them to like have a life and exist, and then you start to like build a life in adulthood, which is not always where like I don't know where having too many friends isn't as much as an asset, I guess.
yeah,
Um, and I don't know, like people's like viewpoints or the way they live their life becomes uh like actually like important to you. You like care what they do or say or how they are, and you start to like factor in like, should I? You actually really like seriously like you'll be like, should I keep this person around? Which but like in a healthy way, I guess.
yeah,
Like,
right,
is this
yeah.
really good for me or not? You know?
Yeah, you're thinking more about your life and the life you want to live and
Right.
kind of who fits into that. And you don't have just like all the time in the world to just like hang out
Yeah.
as much as you used to. And so you want to be
Yeah.
more precious with your time. Yeah, it got me thinking about a lot of that. And yeah, I just think it was just a good, like, chill comedy um, that also had some like really like uh, relatable themes in it too. Um, So yeah, I'd recommend it. I think it's on Showtime. I could be
Nice.
wrong, but it's streaming somewhere.
Yeah. You always find the like cool, like under the radar, but like brilliant comedy indie things, I feel.
I try.
All
So that's nice. Yeah, but yeah, that's the
right.
Civil Dead,
Number
my number
six.
6.
Okay. My number six is May December. Um,
Nice.
very good. Very, very good. Um, I love these stories where like it's like people like obsessing over another person and like studying each other, and I love the juxtaposition of like Hollywood comes to small town America, and people in like small town America kind of I don't know, they like, and just not just in small town America, but like everywhere, I think, but specifically small town America, where they're like, I'm not going to address these things that have happened to me or look back on it because now my life is about the now. But what they're really doing is like really unhealthy and fucked up. Like, I don't know. You see that in reality TV a lot, where like, you watch Gordon Ramsay break someone down like a restaurateur, and he's like, I've been doing this for so long, like where you get them to admit it. I feel like there's a little of that in May December. But what's interesting is like, but then the movie also questions the morality of like Natalie Portman's character and how she's like the messed up side of how like she's like obsessed with studying Julianne Moore and learning about her life and like that scene where they're in the acting class and she gets questioned for wanting the role of a fucked up person and she's like, well, look at any like great role, that's what it's about. It's almost like that we're looking for a juicy story as like an artist. It almost portrays it as like disgusting, and then not to spoil too much, but in the end, like I feel like her character comes out like I don't know, at the bottom of like the war between these two. But yeah, so interesting. I love the music too, and I could definitely watch this again and learn more about it for sure.
There's so much to unpack with this. The script, like I can't believe it's written by a first-time screenwriter. Like there's so much dense writing and so much
Yeah,
like
that's insane. I did not know that.
subtext
That's crazy.
underneath the surface of everything. And you're right, like it's almost Natalie Portman's character is like almost she's like exploiting this sort of kind of small town simpleton kind of community, and it's like people in like Hollywood sometimes like psychoanalyze people that don't really deserve to be psychoanalyzed, and they kind of
Yeah.
reveal too much of their lives, and I feel like that taps into like art versus reality and just so many different things. I'm jumping the gun because I'm going to talk about this later, but yeah, like this movie inspires so
Yeah.
much shit that's not normally in,
Yeah.
Hollywood movies that I think is really just brave and just crazy that it was made. So
Yeah, and in ways she's like trying to be so like polite at the beginning of the film by like,
yeah.
but she it's totally like ends up being such an invasion of privacy. But at the she at the beginning it's all about like, no, I just want to, do by your story right and like tell it the way it is. And
Mhm. So my number six, you mentioned just a minute ago, was the zone of interest. I won't spend too much time talking about it because I truly believe like it's a movie that you have to see to sort of understand the feelings that it invokes because it's so abstract in a way. And it's such a portrait of evil that's never really been portrayed on screen because it's almost like this, it's shot on digital. So it's like it gives off the Holocaust almost as like a contemporary sort of feeling in it. And I don't really want to go far beyond that because I feel like a lot of it's revealed through just like following this family on this in the kind of mundane situation of being part of the Third Reich and like a really efficient person in the Third Reich who's just doing really well and seeing him ascend. It's like you feel like you're almost complicit to one of the biggest just genocides in history. And it's like I think of all the films we're
yeah,
talking about is like probably the most boundary pushing and innovative like movies in terms of movie making. Like it's like undeniably something that we've never seen before, and it evokes feelings you've never really felt while watching a movie. And just like audio design wise, like might be the best like sound design in the past like 5-10 years because like Luke mentioned before, you don't really see any of like the heinous shit going on. It's all like implied and kind of done off screen and it's kind of like this sort of atmosphere that's palpable throughout the whole movie that just gets under your skin and like this movie's abstract in a way because you can really apply it to like a lot of just human kind of just really low moments in human history that kind of evoke the same feelings like that concentration camps had. So it's like it's such a tough movie to recommend to people, but if you're into that sort of like abstract form of filmmaking, like I think Jonathan Glazer is one of our modern masters of in terms of like evoking feelings that are just out of comprehension. And this movie was really, really brilliant in my opinion. So yeah, that's really it. Go see it if you can.
Oh, hearing you guys talk about it makes me want to see it so bad. Yeah, sounds really interesting. Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's not a movie you're gonna want to like go get a slice of pizza afterwards. You're gonna be like kind of shook in your car and just want to dissect it for the next hour.
I bet. Yeah. Nice.
Yeah, that's six. So we're in the top five.
Top five. All right. Well, my number five is Killers of the Flower Moon, um, which I feel like we talked about it enough before. But yeah, of course, loved it. It's cool that Scorsese and Miyazaki are in their 80s and still putting out
yeah,
this
yeah.
high quality
Peak
of
work,
work.
you know.
Yeah, it's crazy.
They're
Yeah,
continuing to beat themselves.
yeah. And I don't know. I was talking about this with someone after I saw it that it kind of reminded me of Goodfellas in a lot of ways too. And I think maybe just in the way that it really felt like a Scorsese movie. But there were just certain aspects of it that reminded me of that. And, um,
Yeah. I feel like every movie of his, you'll see something where you're like, that
yeah,
mirrors more of his work.
Yeah.
It all is like, ends up being under the same
There is like
umbrella.
there's that
yeah,
raging bull moment, or there's that like Departed sort of because like he's so
Hmm.
like all of his movies are kind of they're kind of like one long like exploration if you think about it because they're all like exploring similar shit and like yeah, and this movie rears all that stuff.
yeah. And just in general too, it did make me want to read the book and find out more about this just story overall. And I think this story was just told really well. I also really enjoyed the ending with like Jack White in the radio show And I just thought that was like a clever storytelling technique, I guess, to just go through, what really happened at the end of this, and
Hmm.
sort of keep it in this theme, and
Yeah.
not just have words on a screen explaining something. I thought that was really
Hmm.
cool. Um, and it's my number five. It's really great, of course. Another one that's really cool that it seems like a lot of people went out to go see it, and yeah.
My number five is Oppenheimer, um, which is like in ways on the same level as Killers of the Flower Moon. Um, but yeah, I think Oppenheimer, like, it's just so tough to look at it objectively after, it's just so gushed over and highly regarded. Uh, I mean, it can't do no wrong. Like everyone loves it, and
Hmm.
I mean, and I mostly agree. I mean, I love this. I think it was, I think it's really great. I think it's, in ways there's no movie, like it in terms of like, what it's exploring and how daring it is. But yet it's all a character study and it's all mostly people talking in a room. Um, when I saw it, I was like thinking, God, this is probably like it's got to be one of my favorite Nolan movies just because of the script and all the performances. And I feel like in the past he's had um, like maybe writing that isn't as like mature and as good and as complete as this, at least for me. And I feel like as he's gotten older as a director, I've like liked his later works more than the earlier ones. Like I really like Tenet, I really like Oppenheimer, um, and yeah, I love Ludwig Göransson's score. I think it like carries you through this long movie that is filled with character studies and exposition of how like and physics and stuff like that. But yet this movie, like you're never bored. It's so entertaining, which is similar to Killers of the Flower Moon. Like it's like something very serious, but I also think it's really entertaining. Manages to be very entertaining at the same time.
I think the writing point is good because I think a lot of his earlier stuff, especially like Inception, and the writing's very focused on the concepts and not really digging into emotion
Yeah,
or
the macro
character.
instead of the
Yeah.
micro.
Like they
Yeah,
almost feel like you're reading like a whiteboard of his
yeah,
kind of his brain exercising and coming to terms with all these concepts, and that like comes out in his movies. And like yeah, Oppenheimer feels like he's just writing a piece of history, and like a
yeah. It's
very
like he's like trying to
dramatized piece of
change the
history.
world with this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At
Like there's a
times.
clear like thesis and everything. Like it's such a well constructed screenplay on like, and like the time he still has like the non-linear storytelling and how just
Yeah,
vast it is and everything. Like that's there's Nolan trademarks, but I agree it's probably like his most mature script and movie so far. It
yeah,
didn't make my list, but it's another honorable mention. Obviously, it's a great movie. It's probably gonna win like all the Oscars, and it's probably gonna be the
yeah.
movie that people remember
Hmm.
from this year. I would say.
Yeah, I think it probably will be remembered for a while. And then just speaking to like the how way this movie flows, I love how like at the beginning, it just starts off and Killian Murphy's like it's just like flashbacks of his life. And it just shows
Mhm.
him getting started and being a student, and then that piano music starts going, and you're just like you just get kicked off and running. It's just such a ride.
Yeah.
Yeah, really impressive to make a long movie like this with a lot of science jargon, and guys talking in a room this entertaining. But yeah, yeah. Oppenheimer will come up on my list too. So yeah.
It reminded me of like of Oliver Stone's JFK, but by the end I felt like so bombarded with information, but it's such like an
Yeah,
emotional like roller coaster of American history that's just so boldly told and so ambitious. Like it's like very few directors could pull off what he and I guess Oliver Stone did. Like it's so impressive. So yeah.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot just to take in, like new information to take in too at the end. Like I really didn't know too much about him personally or what happened, after the fact of him getting blacklisted and everything. And yeah, it's just such a complex character to dive
Yeah.
into, both
Yeah.
personally and like professionally, and just a huge person in history. Um, and yeah, I like the scenes too after the bomb. I like that you don't see the bomb actually, them dropping the bombs, and it goes right into like, what have I done? Like, just the overwhelming amount of like guilt and demons that causes. That's
Yeah.
yeah, I thought that was really well done.
Yeah, and all
Definitely
the like images of like the bomb images is like really breathtaking.
Yeah,
gorgeous.
Like it's why you see it in like IMAX
Yeah,
70
yeah,
millimeter, and like the whole theater kind of like just freezes. Like everyone freezes in their seats when that
yeah.
stuff is going
No one's
on.
like
yeah,
blinking. Like you don't want to miss a millisecond of what's going on
yeah,
screen. Like it's
Yeah,
invigorating.
yeah. And then that last act, yeah, I do just love when it's about like the guilt and it's about
Hmm.
investigating it, kind of like little social network esque. And it's just amazing that this is like Chris Nolan, just like, I know it's based off a book, but that like this is like his script and like only his script too. I just think it's such a feat to write something like this.
It's like thousands upon thousands of pages, I think, and like he to be able
Yeah,
to condense that into 3 hours is like it's pretty
yeah,
insane. Also,
yeah,
another great Benny Safdie performance in the
yeah.
he's
Wow,
all
yeah,
yeah,
around.
yeah.
really big year
Gosh,
for him.
he's
Wow,
killing it.
yeah, yeah. He was the kind of the star of the testing scene too.
Yeah,
Right? Yeah, he really was.
the
Yeah,
sunscreen and everything. That's like one of the most iconic movie images of the year, I think. Was
yeah, yeah. Oh, that scene too. I think that was just like, um, I feel like that's like what the general public was like. Yeah, like let's do this. Like, let's drop this bomb. Let's make something happen. And I think that scene, everyone like in the theater, you can just feel like nobody's making a sound. Everyone's just totally like glued into
Mhm.
this moment.
Hmm.
terrifying when they're
Yeah,
talking
it
about
was
like
really
where they're
cool.
gonna do it, like very methodically. It's like, oh God, it's
Hmm.
extra. I love the scene too when they're at like the school or whatever, and they're in the bleachers, and Killian Murphy starts seeing like
Yeah,
remains of
Yeah,
people. Like
yeah.
that's like really striking shit, like really
Hmm.
effective stuff,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah. What a performance! If he wins, I would not, for an Oscar, I wouldn't be mad
Of course
at
not.
all.
yeah,
Yeah. Him or Giamatti, I'd be like really happy if either of them win the Oscar. My number five, I'm really glad I get to jumpstart this because I feel like we're all gonna gush over this movie because I know we all really love it. Um, and a lot of people probably won't have this on their top 10, but I'm glad we do because we're on the right side of history. Because I think Blackberry is in the top 10 of 2023. This is like, I love this movie so much. Like, it made me fall in love with filmmaking again and storytelling. And there's just so much spirit and energy and enthusiasm put into like every frame and second of this movie. It's such a like I feel like the framing device is so simple, like a very pitchable movie, like that would go straight to Apple TV. But if you put it in the hands of like Matt Johnson, who's like comes from the indie world of like Canadian cinema, like a lot of people probably wouldn't know who he was before this, and just to direct it with such propulsive, fun energy that just like screams like he knows cinema, he loves cinema, and just I'm just invigorated by like every second of this movie. I think it's I'm gonna of all the movies that came out this year, it's probably the one I'm gonna watch the most after 2023. I think it's so indebted to like stuff like Social Network as we were just talking about, which is not a bad thing at all. Like one of the most influential movies, and it follows the blueprints, the right correct blueprints of that movie. Glenn Howerton gives my favorite performance of the year. I think a lot of you people were like shocked how fucking incredible and commanding he was on screen. And he's like in the theater, like he made me sweat more than like watching the bomb drop at Oppenheimer personally. Like I was just like so taken aback. And yeah, this movie's lean. It knows exactly what it is. It's just I think it's perfect on every level. And I think it's such a well realized vision from Matt Johnson. And I can't wait to watch it over and over and over again and feel inspired by it. So yeah, that's I know you guys I'm sure want to talk about it later, but that's my number 5.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, it
definitely
is
on my
lean.
list
That's
too.
what's
Yeah.
cool about it. Which like the Social Network is not, which is like, but it's still inspired by. I think that's like one of the yeah, that's a great point.
It's like waiting. Also, want to say one of my favorite final shots of the year that like invokes like Raiders of the Lost Ark. Um, it's
Yeah,
just and like a full character arc moment for Jay
yeah,
Baruchel's character.
yeah,
It's like it just makes you want to hoot and holler. It's like I fucking love movies when that
yeah,
happens.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think it's like a
yeah.
perfect movie. Um, and it's just like what it's trying to do. I think it nails it.
It really does. And if I think a lot of people would write it off because it's like it's called Blackberry. It's about a real, product in American history. It might not be interesting, but you gotta watch it if you. It's the best possible version of what those movies can achieve.
Have you
Yeah.
guys watched the limited series of it yet? I heard that has like extra
Yeah,
that was cut out of the movie
I
in
have
it.
not yet.
Maybe
I want
curious to
to.
see
If
it.
it's streaming, I would love to watch it though.
The limited series of Blackberry?
Yeah, you didn't hear about that? Yeah,
No.
they like made it into like a 4-part miniseries, taking like deleted scenes and um
Oh,
everything from
I would
the
love to
movie.
watch that. Yeah, and I
And
wonder if
oh
it
yeah,
like
that's right up your alley.
if it
Yeah.
works because it's like because you could I don't know. I wonder if it works.
Yeah. Yeah, it seems like they must have had. I don't know if
Much
this is
more
like Matt.
material than
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know
yeah.
if this is Matt Johnson really wanting to. The movie as it on its own is just so well paced and just like a perfect like yeah
Yeah.
little
Yeah.
on its own. So yeah, I'm really curious to
If
see
you're
like
like a
what else.
BlackBerry nerd, maybe it is like
right. Yeah.
it's
Like
beneficial for
us,
you
yeah,
because you're like, I want to know much more about,
yeah,
this stuff.
The pacing must be so different if it's like a 4-hour miniseries because like
yeah,
this movie's 2 hours and it's like a roller coaster ride. Like I can't imagine riding that for
yeah,
4 hours of the pace that Blackberry has. But I'd gladly watch it just because I want more of that world and more of those
Hmm.
characters. Like I need
right,
Yeah.
to.
yeah. I just take more of it. Yeah,
Yeah. So yeah, number 5 for me.
cool.
Cool.
Well, yeah, my number 4 then is The Holdovers. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, I think yeah we talked about it a lot before, but again, yeah, really just um,
I love when we get
uh,
to like the top five and like we've said so many, we're like we just like
We
start to
said
write
this
off.
already, yeah.
We write off our own picks.
I know, yeah, it's stupid. I won't say anything about it.
It's a
Yeah,
stupid pick. What can I
no,
say?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I should have said it
So
earlier. I don't.
mainstream. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, it's just yeah, familiar, like a familiar type of movie, but uh, just the character is really what I don't know makes it just so
Mhm.
entertaining and interesting, and yeah, love Paul Giamatti too. Did you guys listen to him on WTF?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, such a
Awesome
great
episode, man.
episode. He's just such a yeah, I love him.
Just the best
Um,
guy. One of the best guys in the
yeah.
world.
Yeah, so I agree, Jake. This will definitely be one that I will probably try to watch every Christmas now. Um, and yeah, yeah. It was like I remember really liking Dead Poet Society growing up. Like they would always show that to you in school.
Hmm.
And I like that um, this reminded me of it, but in a
It's
maybe
like
a
in
more
that world, but
cynical and
like,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, definitely cynical.
It's like his
Yeah.
East Coast depressed kind of sheltered boys. Like that's such a subgenre
Yeah,
in movies kind of that like these intellectual filmmakers will like reflect on their past and I feel like that's what this movie like fits in that Dead Poet Society or like Metropolitan and all those movies.
yeah,
Yeah, they're a lot of fun.
That WTF episode and the holdovers both made me want to like just go down more of a rabbit hole of Paul Giamatti movies,
yeah.
and I
Me
think
too.
I'm planning on I think a rewatch of Sideways is coming up with probably some glasses of wine. Like I
The
really
only
want to
way to
rewatch
watch
that
it,
now.
yeah.
Yeah, so
I want to watch his John Adams show. I heard it's fantastic. where he plays John Adams.
Forgot about that. Yeah.
Yeah,
That was a while ago.
yeah,
That
that
was
was like early
almost like 20 years at this
2010s.
point.
Yeah, but
Oh,
it
maybe not
looks
that long.
awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nice. Yeah. I liked in that WTF episode he mentioned Big Fat Liar being one of
yeah.
his weirdest
Yeah.
He's
movies.
like, it's a weird movie, man. And we all grew
But
up.
for us, we all grew
That
up
was,
with it and like loved
yeah.
it.
That was like
He's
my
a,
introduction to Paul Giamatti
yeah,
was that movie.
he terrified us as a kid. I thought.
Yeah, I
Ooh,
thought he's evil. Yeah.
evil
He's
corporate
the
Hollywood guy.
worst.
It's a
He's a
crazy
producer.
premise for a movie. He steals this guy's homework and turns it into a script. It's so crazy.
I didn't think about how genuinely weird it is until he
Yeah.
mentioned that. But I kind of before he said it, I knew he was going to say it for some
I know,
reason. I
me
was like,
too. I'm like, no,
he's
it's
going
a
to
big
mention
fat
Big Fat
liar.
Liar.
I turned
Here-
blue in that movie.
Yeah.
Here's a great quote from the holdovers. There's nothing new in human experience, Mr. Tully. Each generation thinks it invented debauchery or suffering or rebellion, but man's every impulse and appetite from the disgusting to the sublime is on display right here all around you. So before you dismiss something as boring or irrelevant, remember, if you truly want to understand the present or yourself, you must begin in the past.
Only Paul
Wow.
Giamatti could pull that line off in a movie, and not.
Is there like so many like that where he's just like going off in that movie?
I love the scene where he's talking about. She's like, "Don't you get lonely being here in school all by yourself?" He says, "Like I like the aesthetic of being alone. It fits me." And like, it's just
Yeah.
like, it's stuff only he can get away with saying, and it's just like so, like it's ham-fisty and but so charming at the same time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's like another character, like we're saying, and Beau is Afraid, of course, is a very tonally different, just an overall different movie, but like a character who's like living in their own world and has their own anxieties and is like very relatable in that.
That's
in that
Giamatti's
sense.
trademark. Like that's
Yeah.
sideways.
Yeah. That's what he does like
Sideways, too.
every time. Yeah.
I would love to see Giamatti and Beau is Afraid. Different,
Yeah.
whole different movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Paul Giamatti never goes like, oh, like he's never like quiet, like that.
He can't help but open his mouth, That's like kind of his kryptonite,
Yeah.
He can't hold his tongue.
All right, that's the holdovers. Number 4. John's number 4.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
my number 4.
Yeah. All right, my number 4 is Barbie. I think if I'm being like just totally honest, if my favorite theater experience from this year, maybe other than Blackberry, they would probably both compete with each other, is Barbie. Like Barbie, I just had, and I just saw Oppenheimer too, and so I'm like mind blown that same week and just thinking about it, like big world stuff. And then Barbie like plays, and it's obviously it's so much more relatable for me, and and it's so like my vibe. It's like half a musical. It's so funny, and charming, and takes so much influence from like Howard Hawks or Singing in the Rain and Gene Kelly, just stuff like that. And there's so many just one-liners that you can pick out from Barbie that are like great. I laughed so much. I think I had like a smile on my face for most of Barbie. And Ryan Gosling is so fantastic as well. And everyone, yeah. I mean, I think Barbie overall, I just love. Yeah, I love everything about Barbie.
Yeah.
It's a weird movie, man.
It was weird. Yeah. Heard multiple people say they fell asleep during it too. Yeah.
What the hell?
You got to stay out of the Midwest.
Yeah.
Stay on your coasts.
Plus, we got Will Ferrell. Like funny. He's funnier than he's been in years, or like maybe not even just funnier, but like in the best movie he's been in forever.
Well, I feel like he hasn't cared about anything until Barbie.
No, he hasn't. Yeah, he hasn't.
Like,
I love that it's all sound stages and the environment's really controlled.
It embraces its
Yeah.
artifice, like
Yeah, exactly,
which I,
exactly.
it's like something like Tim Burton or someone crazy would do, where it's
Yeah.
just making it look as artificial as possible, but also as stylized as possible.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad because like Lady Bird and Little Women are like really rooted in reality in some ways, and like this was
Yeah.
like kind of threw all that out the window and just made the most
Yeah.
bonkers
Yeah.
movie possible.
Little Women though showed me that she could like make something like this though, because I remember like Little Women had some like musicality to it, some rhythm
Yeah.
to it at
I mean,
points
the
where
dialogue is very like Ernest Lubitsch, like they're all kind of bouncing around the room.
yeah,
It's like
yeah,
this very rhythmic thing. Like she like even like Mistress America, go back to that. She loves that like Howard Hawks, the da sort of thing, and then like
yeah.
Barbie.
hmm
Yeah.
Yeah, but I love now that she's a Hollywood queen. She's untouchable, but she used to be that girl who was just like working with Noah at the most and then in indie movies and only certain people knew she was
You go
super
back to like
brilliant.
Joe Swanberg. She was making movies for like
Yeah.
$20.
She was so brilliant. Yeah, only
Yeah.
certain people knew she was so brilliant, but now like everyone knows. I feel like this is where finally like literally everyone knows unless, you like live in Wisconsin or
Yeah, if
something or
you're
something like that.
John's relatives, yeah. It's crazy because like I think when I was in college, like Greta Gerwig was like the indie darling, and everyone looked
Yeah.
up to her and loved her.
hmm
And I
No,
still love her, yeah, but I was like obsessed with her movies, and now
the amount she's
I
ascended since then.
yeah, it's crazy.
Well,
I've never
similar
been
to
a
the Safdies. The Safdies were
yeah,
doing that too for years, and
the
Nathan Fielder,
Safdies.
Nathan Fielder, even because Nathan Fielder was making just small movie things that no one saw for a
That's
while.
why I love being a
Yeah.
fan of these people because like it becomes like attainable because you see their brilliance on a small scale and then they kind of ascend to this just
Yeah,
untouchable place.
yeah,
And yeah, just good for her.
yeah. Like this is her blank check. I mean, Little Women's a big budget. I feel like too, but I feel like this is a
And Barbie was like
real.
150 million, yeah.
Yeah,
So
this is a real blank check. So
and now she's going to Narnia, which is going to be a bigger blank check. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, and it's crazy
Is
to
she
see
really?
her.
She's
Yeah,
doing like
that's
two
her.
Narnia movies for Netflix.
Wow.
Yeah.
I didn't hear about that. Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and it's crazy seeing her do things like talking to James Cameron on Directors on Directors. It's just
Because Barbie
it's
made like
wa-
as much money as like Avatar, The Way of Water almost. So it's like
yeah,
she's on that
right. So they're saying that
behemoth
these
level.
people can relate now. It's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
It's wild.
Yeah. You can be making movies for $100 like in Chicago and then go to make Barbie a decade later. It's pretty crazy,
hmm
you know? My number four is a much smaller movie, but I love this movie. It's called Fallen Leaves, by Aki Kaurismäki. It's a Finland movie. Some people
I
might
didn't get
have.
to this one.
I know Luke wanted to
Same.
watch it. John, for both you guys, I think it's right up both of your alleys. I always describe Aki Kaurismäki as like the Jim Jarmusch overseas. Like he has the
hmm
very similar sensibilities in terms of his style, like really dry, but kind of whimsical, like slightly whimsical and really life affirming. Like his movies are just really about really mundane human beings. Like this movie is just about two people that work in the service industry in Finland, and they're dealing with like unemployment stuff and the war in Ukraine and stuff like that. Like really topical, but it manages to be so charming and lovable and really deeply wholesome movie. It's
hmm
so it's just so beautiful. And like if you love that minimal style of filmmaking that just kind of like shoots only on locations and captures the beauty of mundane life, like this is the movie for you. And just like not even this movie, like go watch all more Aki Kaurismäki movies if you're into that sort of thing. Like he's such an underrated and kind of undiscussed director.
What a name, Aki
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kaurismäki. Yeah.
It's awesome. I found out about him because like Steve Buscemi talked about him. He's like more people in the world need to see Aki Kaurismäki, and like he is brilliant. And he hangs
Mhm.
out like he hangs. Apparently, he's friends with him and Jarmusch and all the David Lynch. He's just the man. I love him. And this
Nice.
movie,
All right, that's
you
very
guys,
motivating.
you
Then.
guys will love it. Everyone,
Cool.
it's one of the best movies of the year. It's just
Yeah,
it's
I
a
wanted to
gorgeous
watch it. It was
movie.
just I ran out of juice, but I'll watch
Mhm.
it.
Yeah. You guys will love it. So yeah, that's number
Cool.
4.
Well, it kind of reminds me. This is about. I don't know if this is 2023. It might be 2024. But I've seen that trailer now for the Wim Wenders film
Yeah.
multiple times, and I really want to see that. And
Me too. Yeah, it's apparently Wim Wenders like one of his final movies, and people are saying it's like one of his best. So I can't wait to see that.
All right, nice.
Yeah,
All right.
On Mubi, right? It's on Mubi.
it's on Mubi, so yeah, get a free trial and just watch Fallen Leaves.
How much is Mubi?
I used
Do you guys have
to
it?
I used to pay for
No, I
it
don't have it.
back in the day. It was like $5 a month. It's
Okay.
pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I thought there was something else that was on Mubi that came out this year too that I was trying to see. I don't know. Maybe it was that.
Decision to Leave was last year. That was like their big.
Oh,
They always have like one really really incredible thing that they push. So
so that was 4. Um,
So it would
Yeah.
be 3 next.
then we'll.
3 comes after 4. Well, I was confused because my number 3 is Oppenheimer, and I remember I thought we just talked about Oppenheimer. But
There
yeah,
it is again.
maybe that was a while ago. But yeah, Oppenheimer's my number 3. Of course, loved it for all the reasons we talked about before. Yeah, I don't have much else to add. I
It's
know
like
we're at
the-
like the grandiose like top 3 now, but yeah, we've talked about it a lot, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah, sorry for stealing all your thunder, John, that you could have
Yeah.
had at your number 3.
We could have waited until the end to go over it, but you know.
I wanted to say about Oppenheimer too. Like I love how Nolan casts like all these really random but cool like character actors and like the kind of scientists like
Yeah.
like David Krumholtz and
Mhm.
Josh Peck, like all like it's a really
Yeah,
it's
Josh
kind of like a
Peck.
cherry on top to see all these people like you would see in movies like growing up and probably movies that his kids likes.
Yeah.
Like Nolan,
Everybody's somebody in Oppenheimer.
yeah, like
Yeah.
every person that you see across the screen, you're like, oh, that guy was like in Hannah Montana or so. Like it's really wild, yeah. So
Yeah, this one got backlash too for I think this was really brief, but for not having any Japanese people or like showing the
Oh.
Japanese side of it too.
I
Which
had
is
that
just
comment,
kind of
yeah.
it's the same thing of like not showing, you know,
Yeah, it's the same argument.
yeah. But in Oppenheimer they also didn't talk
People
about
just
what
don't
people in
understand
Finland are
framing
doing.
in films or anything.
Finland.
You can't go over how something affects everyone too.
You can't go through every country, guys.
Yeah. Some stories are just about certain things that don't have to do with other things, and it's
Yeah, exactly.
it's
Yeah,
nothing
that's
malicious.
that's a good way to
Yeah.
put it.
It's also probably like 3 people on the internet that said this, and then it just got shared, and then seemed like there was actual outrage. But
I had like an argument. It's like this guy at a bar. It was like a friend of a friend, and that was like his main criticism for Oppenheimer was like you can't sympathize with like the actual people who were affected by this bomb, and I was just like, man, like there's no
I
way.
could.
Yeah, I'm like you could
You
actually
can by just seeing like
use your
through
brain
the-
and think about history, but
you're seeing the people who did it. It's like kind of the same as Killers of the Flower Moon because you're seeing the people
Yeah.
who affected it rather than the ones who are affected, the ones who did it, you know, and which is more interesting. Like we can
yeah, you're
see-
telling.
you're-
I mean, filmmakers like Nolan and Scorsese, they want to like delve deeper into the implications of and the reasons why this is happening, not just like trauma porn. Like that'd be boring.
Like
Yeah.
what's interesting about
Yeah.
Zone of Interest is that Zone of Interest you don't see anybody in like Jewish like getting tortured once.
I mean, that movie
Um,
literally puts you in the shoes of the evil people.
Yeah.
Like that's the if
Yeah,
someone
puts you
complained
in-
about that, that'd be crazy in Zone of Interest. But I'm sure people have.
But oh, and I also was gonna say I feel like maybe Robert Downey Jr. is getting too much accolades for Oppenheimer. I don't know. Maybe you guys disagree.
No, I would
just feel like-
agree.
I feel like
I
he's
think it's like
winning
a-
everything.
It's like a lifetime achievement sort of thing. 'Cause
Yeah,
everyone in Hollywood loves the man. I love him too. He seems like a
I'm not saying he's not good in
great.
the movie, but
yeah, just like for Oscars, I don't think it's that great of a performance. It's
Yeah,
a
his role
very
wasn't that. It wasn't even that like memorable. Really,
Yeah,
like there's
yeah,
nothing
he's-
like specific about that stood out.
he's very serviceable. I would maybe even like I remember Matt Damon a lot more than Downey in it.
Damon
I
would
like-
love to hear that. He's very
Yeah.
he's so under discussed in this movie, but he's really good.
He's so understood discussed, but he's great. He's just really good in in this.
Yeah, I don't think he should win the Oscar. I think it should be like Ruffalo or someone else. Like I don't.
Yeah,
But
Did Downey Jr. win for some award already?
he won Golden
he's won the
Globes.
Golden Globe.
Globe. He's won the SAG. He's won the
Yeah.
critics. He wins everything for it.
Well, you keep seeing him
Wow,
accepting
It's
an
weird.
award, so
Yeah.
that's why.
wow.
They just want to give him
That's
statues
surprising.
because he's RDJ,
Yeah.
but it's like, yeah, it is weird. But he was Iron Man, you know, the people love him.
Yeah, that is true.
My number 3 is Killers of the Flower Moon, which I was obviously hyped for. What is there to say that I haven't? Well, I think what's amazing about Killers of the Flower Moon is it manages to be go after this like really touchy, difficult subject matter and manage to also be kind of charming and entertaining at the same time. There's a lot of moments where people laugh at this movie. Specifically, I think at the characters and like the hypocrisy of a lot of these characters and you know there's Ben Fraser. Like people are really giving these great performances that are like very like memorable in this movie. And I don't know. I just think like it's such an accomplishment. I'd put it in like it's not only in like top 3 of my list for this year. It's probably in top 3 of Scorsese in general. I feel like same with like Nolan. I'm like I like the later Scorseses a lot because I feel like they're just so mature. And I thought The Irishman was an amazing accomplishment, but I think Killers of the Flower Moon is on that level, but maybe even has like way deeper themes and is like more important overall to like you know telling the history of this country and just being yeah.
I think The Irishman might be more like a meta accomplishment for like his career because like it's a very familiar territory, but Killers of the Flower Moon might be like a bigger like cinematic accomplishment, I guess, more broadly.
Yeah, broadly.
It tackles like the most like one of the most unadaptable things you could ever adapt. And like The Irishman was like incredible, like in his own comfort zone. So I'm glad they're both
Yeah.
like he's branching out still, like we're saying. Like it's pretty nuts.
Yeah. I mean, I think like some people thought that I don't think there's that many complaints about it, but I heard people saying it's like boring or something, and I definitely did not think this was boring. Maybe at times like very tough to watch as he's you know just keeping his like wife you know incapacitated and drugged out, and but yet how it's conflicted because he really does like love her and all that stuff, and he's just like a kind of like a stupid like boy you know Leo's character. But yeah, I was not bored. I think this movie's like also while being socially very prestigious is also just very entertaining and like a really good movie.
It is a good movie. All right.
Yeah, that's number 3.
That's your 3. My number 3 also has been discussed. It is Poor Things, directed by Yorgos Lanthimos. My favorite quote on this movie is actually Emma Stone when I think she won an award, and she said like she sees like Bella's journey as like a rom-com, but instead of falling in love with a person, she falls in love with life. Which I
that
think
was
is
really cool.
Really, really beautiful way to look at this movie because like I think this for Emma Stone's purposes, like this is probably I could tell like the most attached and sort of involved she was in creating this character, and like there's so much love and dedication put into like every frame of this movie and every sort of decision made in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like the whole design of this world is like impeccable. Like I think one of the greatest achievements of filmmaking this year was like Yorgos and his production designer and the DP and just how they crafted this world. This kind of like alternate kind of fucked up mirror to our world, this almost kind of like self-reflection in this fantasy world. And that's why I personally love fantasy movies like this because they are self-reflexive of our current state in our world that's not, I mean, some do hit it over the head pretty hard, but I feel like this movie had this good balancing act of having very overt symbolism for our world, but also maintain this incredible tone that Yorgos set out to do. And like Yorgos, I think he's just one of our more consistent guys doing movies now. Like he's just so he gets these bigger budgets. He works with all these movie stars, and he continues to make just these incredibly weird, kind of idiosyncratic movies that only he can make, with themes and sort of storytelling that we all we just really crave. I feel like he really hit a zeitgeist in the past few years. And this might be his most like well-revered movie, and it's just incredible. And like I think like the best next to like Oppenheimer and maybe Killers of the Flower Moon, like the best cast, or at least my favorite. I mean, like Willem, Emma,
Yeah.
Mark Ruffalo's incredible. You have Chris Abbott show up. You have Gerard Carmichael, who's a
Hmm.
great comedian. Just like
Yeah.
an onslaught of really cool people show up in this movie. And yeah, like Emma Stone says, like it's a movie that makes you it's like life affirming in a way because it makes you look at these kind of simple uh aspects that Bella sees the world, and you kind of see it through her lens, and you kind of reappreciate those things that she discovers. And I think it's such a beautiful, like wholesome experience if you look at it through that lens. So yeah, Poor Things. We all love it, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, Yorgos is now one of those people that I'm always excited to see whatever since the lobster. So it's like lobster favorite and Poor Things. I was just super excited to see them because it's yeah, he just has such a unique style, and it's always going to be something weird and interesting that you're not expecting. And like Luke said about like the beginning, I was also like, what is this about? Like what I can't even comprehend what I'm seeing, like with the
Yeah.
animals, like yeah, it's just there's yeah, but once you like get into that world and the story, then it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's really great.
Yeah, like what's amazing is that like I was in the theater and it's like full, and it's like the guy who makes like the weird movies like he sells out and he gets people to stay. Like obviously like say we're going to stay for his movies, but like other people, just like regular people where I'm like I don't know how they've even found themselves in these seats. I'm like they're actually like putting up with this, and seeing where this goes. And that's really cool that someone who's literally like in the weird genre or the idiosyncratic genre, like you said, is a mainstream director.
Yeah, he is. I mean, it's kind of a similar arc to Greta because I remember seeing The Lobster with you back in like 2016, and you're like, what is this weird dystopian just insanity that you're watching? It's like and it's
Yeah,
so
and
brilliant.
I remember thinking, I'm like, I've never seen anything
Yeah.
like that.
And it strikes just a tone and a vibe that you've never seen. And to see him carry that over into like this movie's massive and just so inventive, and like you could tell it's like what Yorgos has been trying to make all his career. It's like it was such a
Yeah,
rewarding thing. He's making more like him and Emma Stone is a great collaboration. Like The Favorite's great, and they have another movie coming out. Like I'm like we said
mm,
before, I'm glad she's working with weirdos because I think
yeah,
she's a very beautiful actress dressed up, and like under the surface is like a complete. She's like very weird in the best way possible. I think she likes to be weird, so let her be weird, Hollywood.
yeah. I love Christopher Abbott's like final scene. That was one of my favorites
Yeah.
scenes. Yeah,
It
really
Yeah, it
like
was really
Christopher
great too.
Abbott.
I like how that yeah, the story went to that different place because you see obviously in the beginning like her jumping off the
Mhm.
bridge, but yeah, as the story's going on, I was just not really thinking about that because of all the weird shit happening on the story, and then yeah, coming sort of full circle with that. I thought, yeah, that was a great scene at the end. Christopher Abbott was also pretty entertaining
Such
as
a good
that whole
actor. He's
guy.
like
Yeah,
everything you see him in, you're like, this guy's got the shit. Like, he's got the goods.
Yeah.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's my number three.
cool. All right. Well, my number two is Blackberry. Um,
Let's
and
go.
yeah, I'm glad Luke recommended this one months ago or whatever after seeing it. So that pushed me to see it sooner. And
Gotta
I
see Blackberry,
yeah, dude,
man.
Luke was raving about it, man. Um,
That's how you talk to
and
your
he's
wife.
the only guy I've heard talk about it. So, but this is pretty amazing though because I watched Blackberry on a plane,
Ooh.
and this is my viewing experience of Blackberries. I was on a plane. It wasn't an just by the time I decided to watch that, and then by the time we like landed and edited and everything, it wasn't enough time to finish it. So I literally went home that night. I was flying back home. I went home that night and I rented the movie just so I could watch the last like 25 minutes that I missed
Uh,
on the plane. And we've talked about this before about like watching something we've already seen 1,000 times like on a plane. I just feel so crabby. I can't focus on
Mhm.
something new. But this was a movie just immediately locked in, and it just yeah, like that pacing is just so great. It's yeah, reminded me so much of Social Network, which obviously we talk about all the time on here. But um, yeah, it was just a movie that I couldn't take my eyes off of. So yeah, my number two, and I also this is my introduction to Matt Johnson now, who I guess is this cool indie guy that now I have to check out. So yeah,
I recommend if you guys haven't listened to his interview with Pete Holmes. It's a really good interview.
oh
Oh,
They
cool,
go deep into the making of BlackBerry and just like his whole
nice.
philosophy of filmmaking.
cool.
Nice.
He's such an impressive guy.
Yeah, and he's like the third lead in this
Yeah,
too,
great. He's
Yeah,
an
arguably.
amazing actor. Yeah, it's cool. Like his first two films are both really good, and he's like the star of those. He's kind of like he's like a Canadian Cassavetes in a way. Like he's just kind of doing everything on set. He's like he's just got film in his blood, you know. He's one of those guys.
and who was there was another like cameo in this where he had a bigger role, but he's like an older actor. The guy
Yeah,
who's
what's
like
that? Who's that guy again,
screaming at
Jake?
everyone.
He's like from some.
Michael Ironside. He's like
Ironside, right,
the
right,
guy that
yeah.
used to work with like Paul Verhoeven and stuff. Yeah, I love
Yeah,
seeing
wasn't he
him
in
What
show
else
like
up.
is he in
Total
though?
Recall
He's in
or
RoboCop, Total
okay.
Recall, Starship Troopers, I think too. Yeah, I
Oh,
love
okay,
him. It's
yeah.
so cool to see him show up. Yeah,
Yeah, that guy will fuck up your engineering
yeah.
department.
Seriously, he'll fuck it up. Yeah,
Yeah.
there's
That's
so much
Blackberry.
quotable
So good.
line deliveries too, like when he's like screaming, he's from Waterloo, where the vampires hang out or whatever. Like, it's such a good
Yeah.
script.
I think like my favorite scene is I don't know, it's really tough, but like one of my favorite scenes is when he like moves his Glenn Howerton moves his like all his stuff into the
Yeah.
company and he's
Yeah.
immediately like changing everything
Get
and
off the fucking phone.
he's like we're that much in debt and and he like immediately gets on the line to go get this deal. I
Yeah.
just love the juxtaposition of the tech nerds with someone who is like who is just like so immersed in the world of business. And
Yeah.
Yeah. It's great.
my number two is the holdovers. My top two are like I just went very personal and subjective and like what do I really like to watch. And yeah, the holdovers fits that bill. I love the personal down to earth dramedy about like an anxious like intellectual professor who with a very kind of just troubled I forgotten kid who's also wasting his potential, and the fact that these two are like learning from each other. Just like a character story that is really well done. And it's in the right and it's fit into the right setting. Yeah, I'll like, and that's why it's my number two, just like because I know like I'll want to watch the holdovers. I'll hesitate before rewatching Killers of the Flower Moon. Same with Oppenheimer. I'll have to like really be like, oh man, do I have that much time? Do I really want to be in that headspace right now? Like that's something you have to
Yeah.
those you have to dedicate a day to.
You have to like
When
plan ahead, like a day and ahead. Like
Yeah.
if you're gonna watch Killers of the Flower Moon,
Yeah,
especially.
when the holdovers, I could easily just do it at like 8 or 9 p.m. at night, and I'll be able to unwind, I'll be able to escape, and also just get a lot emotionally out of it and have a lot of laughs, and something that like is therapeutic for life. That's kind of what the holdovers is like. Movies that make me want to be better. It's definitely like in that category.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel like I forgot to say this, but it reminded me of like a movie in the 70s like Hal Ashby would make, like The Last
Yeah, no, that's
Detail or
so true.
something.
Yeah.
Where
Hal Ashby's a big influence on
you're
this.
just like, it's not necessarily like a quote unquote hangout movie, but it's just like his main goal is just to dig deep into these characters and kind of
Yeah,
like organically have you discover like their kind of inner turmoils and like just certain things like that. And like I just love that stuff so much, just to see that.
yeah.
And even
No,
like the
that's
style, like the look of it is very like 70s Ashby,
yeah,
stuff like that. So
yeah. No, I'm glad that I thought this was gonna be like a 4 star that I really liked and would have a good time and want to rewatch, but it ended up being like a 5 star that was ended up being one of my favorites of the year.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, I got those same feelings from the trailer. I did not expect to like it as much. Yeah. Pleasant surprise.
definitely good stuff. My number two is a movie called April October, or I'm sorry, May December,
Oh,
the May month. Um, I just think this movie is a masterpiece of film. Todd Haynes, I think, is up there with like Paul Thomas Anderson and the Coens as just one of
Mm,
the most intellectually just charged filmmakers working today. Um, I know enough people have just seen his work. Um, and I think if you go down more of his movies, you'll just see he has such a particular style and such a just an incredible outlook on human beings and just how poignant he is at just capturing just human beings and human nature in such a
mhm.
very off-putting way in a lot of ways. And this movie just is the
Yeah.
epitome of that. As you were saying before about the juxtaposition I just loved of the whole like Hollywood versus rural Alabama. Um, because it doesn't really indict the suburbs. It's not like really making fun of middle America, but it is kind of like the subjective point of view at how kind of insulated it is and how different it is from a lot of our perspectives on it. And it has the whole movie is like about art versus artifice. Like it reminded me of like the character dynamics between like Julianne Moore and Natalie Portman reminded me a lot of like Persona by like Bergman and
Mhm.
like
Yeah.
Mulholland Drive. It's like kind of this melding
Yeah.
personas kind
Mhm.
of shifting in and out of their each other's kind of like psyches in a way. Like they're kind of melding together at one point. And Charles Melton, who plays the kid, is like incredible in this movie. Like I love the scene where he's
Mhm.
smoking weed with his kid, and like
Yeah.
those two start to kind of morph together because you realize like they're not that far in
Two,
age, and
two. Yeah.
and
Yeah.
this guy has like this insane
Mhm.
arrested development because like he got married or he got groomed when he was like 14 or some shit. Um, and
Yeah.
yeah,
It's
he's just
so
like
nuts.
Todd Haynes is just like so good at capturing like these very specific human relationships. Like if you watch Safe or Carol, like they're
Mhm.
so specific, but they're also so like at the same time so palatable if you like put your full attention to them. And like I feel like this movie is just like hitting on all cylinders. Like it's so funny. Like the dialogue's so sharp and like double-edged, where there's so many underlying meanings to like every line in this movie. Julianne Moore and Natalie are two of my favorite actresses, and they're just incredible. And the music too. Like I've heard a lot of not we
Yeah.
keep attacking other people, but like people complain that this movie the music's very like corny and kind of overly dramatic, and like obviously that's the point because it is like this melodramatic sort of look
Yeah, I
on the
love
subject
that part of
matter.
it.
Yeah, like that's
Yeah,
what
that
makes
is
the
so
movie to
fun.
me is like this tone that he strikes. And anyway, yeah, just I think it's brilliant. And it's for a while it was my one movie for a long time, but something dethroned it pretty recently. So yeah.
It's like Game of Thrones now. Who save that for next episode?
Yeah. May December very similar to Game of Thrones also.
May December is like the Jon Snow of your list. All right, I got a joke for when your number one is revealed. Well, wait, all right, your number one now, John. Who is the Bran Stark of your list?
Oh, that's good. I forgot until right now that that's what happens in the end.
Yeah, I mean you have to think about it because why the fuck would that guy be the?
Yeah, I just remember I was like just forgettable and yeah.
It's so head
Anyway,
scratching, you know.
yeah.
Still
Well,
can't get over the ending of Game of Thrones to this
still,
day.
yeah. Let's stop the podcast right
I
now.
hope,
We gotta,
I hope someone that was
that's really
listening
messing me up. Yeah.
hasn't seen Game of Thrones and we just spoiled the entire show.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
I
mean, I
like
don't
to think
care.
of
I
that.
don't
Too
care
long, yeah.
if you haven't like seen it up to now and like spoiling it. Like
No, I think it's funny. Yeah.
it's over, you know.
It really doesn't even matter who it is in the
That's
end.
not the point of the show either. Like I don't think
Yeah.
people care as much about the Iron Throne stuff. It's
Well, that's
yeah.
interesting why they made such a big deal about it because they could have left it like ambiguous too, even in like The Sopranos. I don't know. Just start playing "Don't Stop Believing" and
Jon Snow.
have it be
Yeah, they're just sitting there drinking wine. Don't stop believing. Well, I guess we will never know. We don't know, but we've
yeah,
had some good times or stuff like that, and it just ends ambiguously.
yeah. But weren't those first 6 seasons great or whatever? Yeah, it's
That'd be a really a great cherry on top if they ended the show ambiguously. Well, how
that's
mad
how all
people
HBO
were.
shows end. No, yeah.
Of course. Just cut to black.
Well, I guess with that said,
Your
my
Brad
Bran
Stark.
Stark is Poor Things. But we talked about it, so I don't have to say anything. No, I'll still say something.
So
about Poor
I don't
Things.
really so I really don't. I don't know. If
It's
I like it.
stupid.
I don't know much
shouldn't-
about the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't even really like it that much. It's just my number one. But yeah, Poor Things. I mean, uh, of course, Emma Stone as just like this. I was thinking too, just while watching it, that it's like it's silly to see like an adult being treated like an adult, even though they're like in this child brain. Because when you're a child, like people treat you differently.
Right, but it's like
Like
your body is like the difference, you know. It's
yeah,
not really
exactly.
what you
Yeah.
are inside. Yeah.
So I just thought that was really like it's so ridiculous and goofy and silly, but then it's also like this really interesting like look into how someone acts and behaves as an adult in the adult world when usually as a child you're in your own child world, you don't really understand the realities of a lot of things. And so yeah, just kind of going through that, and then also how other people respond to you as yeah, as that child in this adult body. Yeah, it's just really just a bizarre, strange concept that is just so like Yorgos. Um, and I actually remember when in the early days of the podcast when we were talking about The Lobster, and I didn't even know like who Yorgos Lanthimos was. I just seen the movie, and Luke, you were telling me about him. And then it was like, wow, so this guy has like other weird movies like this. And so, yeah, like we were talking about before too, he's just someone I'm always going to be excited to see it. Even if might not like it as much as something like this, it'll always be something weird and interesting to at least enjoy. So yeah, glad there's also weird stuff like this coming out this year.
Yeah, I
That's my
like
number
Nice.
one.
the fact that she like I love the scenes where she's trying to integrate with high society and she's just kind of it's like her she looks at the world so transparently and just like why can't we have sex all the time and just eat and dance and all this stuff and like there's so much
It's like, say, if you were a
into that.
kid and you were suddenly given all these
Yeah,
adult hedonism things, you would be like
Yeah,
yeah.
that, you
She has
know?
no
yeah,
rhyme or reason to why like it's looked down upon in society and it's like it's very like broadly told but it's also like it's so effective because it's like a fable, it's like a fairy tale, you know, so like it just hits deep when she's like dancing with Ruffalo like really aggressively.
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
It's so good.
One of the best scenes, too.
Yeah.
yeah.
All
All
right.
right, Luke.
My number one is Blackberry. Because, like I said, I'm just picking off of, I'm picking what I like, you know, and I enjoyed this so much. People who listen to the podcast and keep up would know that I like am obsessed with the Social Network. And so when I saw this and it was borderline exactly like it, just with a different piece of technology and a different cast, I just couldn't help but be like, yes, more talks about starting a company, more electronic music, more like innovation, more like stories of innovation. And then, you know, I'm like a big like Steve Jobs head too. So when like there's the scene where he unveils the iPhone, I was like, oh my God, that too. I remember how that happened. And
It's like, oh, it's a crossover with the Michael Fassbender movie.
yeah, yeah, a little bit. Yeah, yeah, and like Jake said, yeah, it's leaner. It's kind of like in ways, it's kind of weird to say that this is like a humble movie, but in ways, it kind of
It's a
is.
small
Like,
movie, yeah.
yeah, it's like kind of small, and it has like Glenn Howard in it, who is, you know, clear not a humble character. But I think this is like, unlike say if you watch like The Social Network, which is like bouncing around timelines, which is just like you have to like be on Adderall to keep up with all the dialogue in The Social Network. BlackBerry, on the other hand, is like way more easygoing, but also is like in that social network genre that it created. So there's some in ways like more digestible. And yeah, I
Yeah,
love the whole arc of like, you know, in China they make these cheaper, so now they have all these ringing noises in it. And he says he's never going to do that, but then like
At
the
the end.
capitalism ideas take over in his head, and he becomes so attached to that he drifts off from what he originally wanted to do, which is like make quality products. I feel like it's just a never-ending classical American like story. It's not, even though this is Canadian, it's still to me is kind of like an American story, like
Like
American themed
capitalism,
story.
yeah.
Yeah, American capitalism themed
Rooted in
story that
American capitalism for sure.
yeah, that just never it just never gets old, like stuff like this. So yeah, and then Glenn Howerton to be in a role like this is just, it's been needed. I think it's overdue because
It is.
we all know he like kind of is the, in ways he's the unspoken lead of that show. He is the one doing maybe the most like heavy lifting, you would argue, and is driving a lot of it. And yeah, he's definitely had the chops to do a lot more, and this really really gave him a lot. He's so memorable in this.
I ever heard Charlie Day said something like he was waiting like 10 years for someone to let like Glenn Howerton outside of Sonny like go full out and like let him off his leash and do it. And they all the Sonny guys were like so happy with Blackberry because like they knew he's like one of the greatest like character actors in Hollywood and like this is like hopefully he gets to do more stuff like this now because like he's so just electric in every
Yeah,
moment.
yeah. I don't think he gets nominated for anything, right?
He has, and I was hoping he would get some like he'll probably get like an Indie Spirit Award or something like nomination. But
Yeah, right. Like
he
I'd love
should
to see
be.
him get something, just one thing,
yeah,
you
You
know.
can't watch this and be like he's like it's better than Robert Downey Jr., but like he's not as well known, so like he should be up
Yeah.
there, to, like with all
yeah,
those other guys, you know.
For me, for me, a fantasy would be like, say, BlackBerry winning like Best Picture over like Oppenheimer or something.
The
Like
Oppenheimer.
that.
It'd be like us three like cheering, and everyone else in the country would be like, "What the fuck is
The
happening?"
biggest for others would be like the biggest travesty in the history of cinema, of the Oscars. But for me, I'd be like, that is the correct
That
choice.
is right. That is appropriate. Yeah, that'd be awesome. But
But it's not necessarily like the Moonlight to Oppenheimer's La La Land or whatever analogy you want to make, whatever film you want to choose.
yeah, it becomes like a Moonlight situation where
And I
that's
don't think it's
actually
gonna be,
the real
yeah.
movie. It's actual cinema.
Yeah, and I don't think it's gonna be one of those things where as time goes on, either while like 5 years later, like, God, Oppenheimer's like total trash, and Blackberry really is the only one that holds up. The only one that holds up is Blackberry.
Yeah,
Barbie
it's a
and
wild
Oppenheimer were
alternate
actually
history.
trash. They didn't age well. I don't think that's the
Blackberry
case at
is
all.
just way more niche. Also, I feel like to
Yeah,
people like us. So
yeah. It's
yeah,
really not like the best movie of the year. It's just like what movie I want to watch more and like yeah. And it's just like I want to give it, its flowers because it's not going to get it from anywhere
yeah.
else but here.
We'll see how many bummies it wins. Maybe it might overtake.
Yeah, see, maybe
Oppenheimer.
we can have the fantasy at the
That's right.
bummies. So
Best movie of all time.
what if like yeah, I mean like who knows? Like
Give it everything.
Glenn Howerton could be so desperate
He'll
for
come
the
to the
awards
bummies.
campaign that we could, yeah, he'll come to the bummies because he wasn't invited to anywhere else.
That's right, yeah. It's going to be Matt Johnson for Best Director,
Yeah.
Jay Baruchel.
Yeah, there you go. Best cinematography.
Glenn Howerton for Best Non-Hair.
Yeah.
Best
but
Bald.
I think he counts for the best hair just because he's like you notice that he doesn't have hair like throughout the movie, so it comes
Yeah.
full circle. It's a best hair
Yeah.
in our
True.
ruling. The
I love
tan
it when
he's
he
got.
like buys the hockey arena and he's just like making all these absurd
Yeah.
changes
And
where
that
he's
guy's
like,
like, we can't do that, and he just keeps talking.
and he's like, we're not gonna have basketball here anymore. It's gonna be all ice. And then
It's like we
and
have
like
a deal with like the Philadelphia 76ers. Or something.
yeah, or something like that. And then he wants to like tear out like the 200 something in the 200 level that is like very essential to like the structural capacity of the building. He's like, that's gonna be my personal box.
Yeah.
Just insanity. Yeah. All right. I guess I'll do my number one movie. I realize every time we've done this podcast together, my number one is always a movie that you guys haven't seen. And I'm gonna continue that tradition. Fuck.
As always.
Yeah, I mean it's very limited release right now, but I'm hopefully gonna sell most people on seeing this movie. It's called The Taste of Things, starring Juliette Binoche, and it's a French movie about a pair of cooks. They're like really well-renowned cooks in France, and it's such a simple movie. It's really just about them and their partnership and them cooking meals for well-renowned critics and chefs, and it really just is a movie about like what creativity means in a relationship and how you should like how nurturing it should be. And this is just the best movie I saw this year in terms of like how it made me feel. It like exhilarated me. There's cooking scenes in this movie that I think I told Luke this, but it feels like there's one that feels like an action sequence, like the camera work, like it's so kinetic, but it's also so like calming at the same time because like Juliette Binoche is so composed and she's just like developing these flavors and like there's like 20 to 30 minute uncut like sequences of cooking in this movie that are just like will take your breath away. And there's one that's just so delicate and so quiet where this guy's like cooking a meal for Juliette Binoche when she's like under the weather. And I was like borderline in tears because like it's just like there's very little dialogue said, but yeah, it's just like a very sensory experience. And for me, like movie making is best just suited for imagery and sound design and music. And the stuff that's unsaid, like the kind of implications you can make while watching movies. And this movie is such a kind of canvas for just beauty and art and food and just like pleasure and all this stuff. Like it's just like it's the movie that I saw this year that made me just love movies the most because it made me escape the most and made me just feel things the most. And it's just beyond beautiful. And if it's playing in a theater out there, you got to see it, especially if you're a
Mhm.
lover of the cuisines, the finer things in life. It's like not only I think it's like the best achievement in filmmaking I saw this year because it just transported me, but it's like the most just plainly the most beautiful movie I saw this year. So yeah, that's my number one. I think you guys both would really, really like it.
Nice. I also saw that trailer a couple times along with the, like how I was saying I saw the Wim Wenders trailer, and that yeah it looks really good, and I love the food movie genre. Like I remember that Criterion collection that they had where it was
Yeah.
like Tampopo, eat drink man
Man, woman,
woman.
and like Babette's
Um,
Feast, Big Night. Like it's up there with all of those is like
yeah, Big
top.
Night is another
It's yeah.
yeah
It's
like
top probably like three or two food movies ever made. It's unreal. My mouth's watering just thinking about the food in that movie.
about the roast pork, the roasted duck that
The
they
roasted duck, yeah.
glazed with balsamic and creme fraiche or something.
It's like
Yeah,
the food in the movie, like when it's being prepared, like she's not even no one's really commentating like what you're seeing. It's just like you see her sprinkle salt, you see every step of the process sometimes.
Ooh,
It's like you just hold in your breath.
I feel
It's
like we
not
gotta
even like
go
I
when you
like the
see that. You
sound of
gotta
that.
go eat somewhere Michelin star, or otherwise you're like very unfulfilled after the movie's
no, I mean like
done.
the movie doesn't necessarily yeah, I mean sort of. It becomes so it becomes so much more like after like the movie fulfills you. That's the thing.
uh,
It's hard to explain, but once you're over, you felt like you
the
died.
movie literally fills you.
Yeah, it fulfills you so much emotionally and creatively. You're just like, I'm good.
It's like you ate the
I could
food.
go.
It's like
Yeah, that's the thing.
it's
That's
like
what I'm
going
trying to
into
say.
Willy Wonka's factory. It's like
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I
so
really
that's
want to see it.
Mm.
Maybe I'll be able to see it in theaters, and probably the short time it's gonna be there. Like,
yeah. Yeah. That's the list.
Oh wow, yeah, that's the end.
all right, well, so my least favorite movie of the year is The Pope's Exorcist with Russell Crowe.
Mine
I
was
just added that to my list on Peacock or whatever it's on.
Hey, I actually want to see that one.
mine was Five Nights at Freddy's. Was easily the
uh,
worst piece of shit.
I did not like that one either.
Yeah.
Well, Five Nights at Freddy's was my second to last, but my last was I feel like I should change this just because I feel bad, but it's 80 for Brady. Um,
Those
poor
poor women, dude.
those poor old women. They're just doing their best.
Well, hey, what
But
about the
no, I
men? What about the men who love Tom Brady?
yeah. What about us? What about us guys? You know?
That's what I was
No,
thinking
but
about 80 for Brady. The
I forgot
young men, not the old women.
I do love all those women. They're all very likable and great, and they actually are kind of funny in this. But yeah, I guess it's my least favorite of the year.
wow.
But I haven't seen everything yet.
Throwing Lily Tomlin and all of them under the bus.
Yeah,
Yeah, and you saw
they've
that
had
in
it good enough.
theaters too.
You saw that in theaters?
Oh, you saw that in theaters, right?
Oh no, I saw that. That was one that my family was like visiting, and we had just like been out and doing something all day, and then they were like, let's just like get takeout and watch a movie or whatever at home, and then we watched 80 for Brady. Um,
And you were like,
and yeah,
bottom of my
but
letterbox list.
yeah, with that being sort of like one of those movies, I definitely was on my phone a bit more. Um, but yeah, yeah, it's definitely not worth being the worst on my list, so I'm surprised to see that I did that. But but yeah, it was not a good movie at the same time. So yeah,
Also, You People with Jonah Hill is like really awful. That's
uh,
like right outside the.
Yeah.
That was like an
I haven't
early.
seen that one yet.
Yeah, it's not great.
Leave the World Behind and like Saltburn are maybe like the most well-known movies that are like
Yeah,
on my least favorite movies of the year.
Did you see
Others are
65? Did you see that?
yeah, that
Yeah,
one too.
that's down there too.
was that like Adam Driver or something?
Yeah, the
Yeah, the where he
dinosaur movie.
fights the
Yeah,
dinosaurs.
that's like the most sleep-inducing movie of the year that I could think of. Like
Yeah,
I
yeah.
could barely stay awake for that.
I don't remember anything from it.
Yeah,
I
it's
could
like
not tell you.
there's like nothing happened.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of good movies too.
Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah, wow. Well, that's
Yeah, that's our top
another year in the
10.
books.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, we can get together and do some bad movies, and then we'll be handing out the official awards, and where not only we but you get to choose who wins. If you also think Blackberry should, win, big movie awards, then this is your chance. Maybe we'll even campaign for the nominees or whatnot. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah. You'll like endorse BlackBerry. And
Right.
Luke and I approve for your consideration. But if BlackBerry wins a bunch of bummies, people might think that it was like there's collusion. It was like an inside job.
Oh,
Right.
Yeah.
we rigged the
Right.
elections. Yeah,
And then that might
Yeah.
slow us down for a while because all of our episodes will be investigating that.
Hey, but that any publicity is good publicity. So we need that. We need a
There's no
scandal,
bad
you know?
publicity. Yeah. As you
Yeah.
can see, you can be indicted for something and you could still run. So maybe I'll do that.
Yeah. Yeah. There we go.
what if we
Uh,
single-handedly got Glenn Howerton like an Oscar nom just by spamming
campaign.
people with the
Yeah.
bummy awards and like they have to squeeze them in now.
And then we'll just take over for the only legitimate awards because in the bummies there are no snubs either.
There are no
We'll-
snubs.
We'll get Joe Coy to host and give him a redemption.
There are no snubs.
Yeah.
People just don't get an award.
Yeah.
It's not binary. It's black and white like that.
Yeah.
You win or you lose.